And good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. BoomStick and Friends. And yes, as you can see, the panel is indeed stacked. We are waiting for the slanderous one, Everborn, to make his, I'm here, the show can start appearance, which he should be here momentarily. But listen, first and foremost, I gotta get it right out. Thanks to the tenacity of this incredible community, and a big shout out to the Iron Lords who invited me on to the damn near 7-hour podcast yesterday. It was an Avengers level celebration, conversation, lots of big opinions. I think that they stacked the deck with 30 plus guests. I'm going to be honest with you. I told this to Cognito privately. I don't even understand how he was able to maintain the order. It was like a WWF slobber knocker. People just going over the top rope and coming back in with chairs. It was pandemonium. But it was by far. If you go and you look, there are over 30,000 views on it. It should have 300,000 views. It's probably the best work they've ever done, and their generosity by inviting me to be on. They had 2,000 people in the chat, which is just incredible. And I crossed 10,000 subscribers for Double Barrel Gaming. It is an incredible milestone, something I've been chasing. When you get into this podcasting game, right, it's the first sub, it's the first 100, it's the first 1,000. And then you start looking at the big numbers. And this was the one that was on the list that I was really hunting down. And after just what seemed like forever, I finally got it. So I'm very proud that this community that's here already, and we already have 100 people, and we're not even 2 minutes into the show. I want to thank everyone for subscribing to the channel, because obviously we work real hard, specifically on this show. We really put our efforts into making it a fun, credible show, and I just want to say thank you for allowing me and Mrs. Boom to, celebrate this, the 10K. But listen, enough of that shenanigans. We have an incredible show. We have two topics, folks. The first one, I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's going to be the one that lasts the longest. And I'm talking about the industry double standard regarding the Microsoft announced acquisition of Blizzard and Activision. I'm going to specifically look. Here's the thing. We don't call people out on this program. It's not something that we do. We will mention some names. I will break down what they said. I am going to say that I walked away this weekend unbelievably disappointed with the takes that some people had as trying to make Microsoft out to be this bad guy and Sony be this incredible angelic type of character, which we know Sony is not. And I'm going to break down why. I'm not saying there's a devil. I'm just saying that they should not be put up on a pedestal because they have gone out of their way to keep games off of Xbox specifically, and that's being cheered. That has been cheered and continues to be cheered. Whereas Microsoft just, they're Microsoft and they're the richest company. So if they want something, they just go and buy it. And somehow, that's okay. It's okay. That's not okay. Money hatting for Sony, good. Buying studios for Xbox, not good. And a big shout out to Dustin Legary. Now, listen, I've said my piece about IGN. I'm not still a big fan of them, but I must give credit where credit is due. He dropped a video specifically breaking down Sony good, Microsoft bad on his own YouTube channel. And it was very well produced. And he had a lot of important one-to-ones that broke down why it's preposterous that anyone that even has a voice is trying to bang the drum for Sony and not for Xbox. But look, let's get into the guests first. And someone that, again, he didn't even knock. He just walks in like he owns the place. OBM from One Bad Mother from Xbox era. I have joined now the ranks of you and your clan over there in the 10K realm. I'm proud to be sitting on this part of the classroom. welcome, brother. I know you have a lot to say. I cannot wait to get into your opinion.
Yeah, well, thanks again, Boom. I always appreciate it. I do have a desire to make this a great show, but obviously, all desires do come with stipulations. So
I love it.
I will
The
feed those
word
over to you later.
desire. Yes, I love it.
Go ahead, Boom.
No. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
No, I wanted to say congratulations first off on 10K. You absolutely deserve it. Very
Thank
happy
you, sir.
for you. And again, appreciate this is some premium airtime on a premium subject, right? So it's going to be a lot of fun to get into some different perspectives. There's going to be angles we're going to be able to take on this topic probably all year. So just so many places to start. Looking forward to diving in with you guys tonight.
Yeah, you know what? And definitely appreciate you here. And making his debut from the Xbox North podcast, Joshua James. Dude, welcome to the program. We've been talking behind the scenes, you and the guys over there. I'm happy to have you on specifically today because this is it's quite a big topic. And again, we're running into a week old, almost tomorrow week, 7 days since the announcement that literally shocked the world. And today we're going to be talking about a very, very pointy subject that seems to be making the rounds, not only on the social aspect of gaming, but within the media themselves. Welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you for having me. No, I'm excited to be here, and thanks for having me on. It's really good to meet all you guys and finally meet you and talk to you. And I'm looking forward to, we've had a week to kind of settle in with this, hear what people are thinking, and I'm looking forward to getting into this subject now that we've kind of had time to sit with it for sure.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Next up, the Wandering Dutch, the best beard in the business. You were able to make it over to the Iron Lords. You had a lot to say there. But more specifically, Dutch, you really went to town. And in complete Dutch fashion, just dropped knowledge bombs on Twitter where you were cutting people down who were ground pounding this incredible once in a lifetime kind of a thing. I mean, again, we thought the Bethesda deal was big at damn near 8 billion. This was 10 times more. I can't wait to hear your take on it. You really knocked it out of the park yesterday. Welcome to the show, dude.
Yeah, it's awesome. And to be honest, that show was just insane from start to finish. Like I was doing my smaller weekend podcasts. Cog had hit me up beforehand and invited us on because he'd seen my post, obviously defending Jez's not his stance per se, but just the fact that they went to town on Jez and then just left another person to kind of say what he wanted and have no rebuttal from them.
Yes.
So it wasn't an attack on either of those people for their opinions directly. It was more just the circumstance in which one person could say one thing and get attacked, and the other person can say something equally as ridiculous and and have no kickback from his peers. I just thought it just didn't make sense. So, but Cog hit us up. Obviously, he never gets involved like that on Twitter, and he just said, I want you to come on to the show and give your piece because you're obviously very passionate on this. I was like, yep, 100%. So it was awesome. A lot of great points put across from a lot of awesome people in the community. Massive shout out to you though, Boom, with the 10K and obviously on happening live on air on Iron Lords as well, which was fitting. Obviously helping them get the 1K originally, and then you've dropped on their show for this massive show and hit your 10K as well to join the ranks of the big boys. So massive congratulations to you, and I am looking forward to once again getting into these topics with some awesome guests this week.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the congratulations, and yeah, if you didn't know, at some point, and I still, even at the time, could not honestly wrap my mind around the Iron Lords. As great as the podcast was from inception to where it is now, they were indeed struggling to hit 1,000. I reached out to Cognito and King, and this is before we knew them, before I actually knew them like family now, and I said, hey, listen, my channel is small. I think at the time I had maybe 3,000 subs. And I said, we got to get you to 1,000. Your show, my brother told me about your show. We got to get you there. And we went to doing a special Saturday show to here's, Double Barrel Gaming presents the Iron Lords, and they got it that day. And it was pretty fitting to come back around all of these years later and then get it, something as monumentous of 10K on their show, which it just was, it was epic. It was just pretty incredible. But Kay Asante, my brother, we've been talking up a storm. I think we've talked every day since this. You have a lot to say, and of course you're going to do it in the best way possible, because there's a lot to break down here. You and I were talking today, and one of the things that I got to say this before I even get to what Colin said, before I even get to the rest of the intros. I'm not attacking Colin. He's a man who wears his passion for gaming and his passion for being Colin on his sleeve. So that's cool. But I've always been in the belief that you have a responsibility as a content creator to not put out false narratives based on your opinion. And some of the things that he said were, in fact, that. And I'm going to break down what those were. Again, I'm not mad at the guy. Those are his opinions. But I hold myself, and I'm not angelic in any way, but I hold myself to a very high standard that if I'm going to get out here and it's my opinion, I'm going to tell you, hey, folks, this is my opinion, rather than a matter of fact. And a lot of things that he said, both on that rant that everyone was talking about, his tweet on Twitter, and what he said on the Iron Lords, especially in the creativity aspect of it, was false. That was just straight up false. We're going to break down why that was, though. But listen, let me get into it with Kay Asante. Kay Asante, brother, you knocked it out of the park. You had an absolutely epic show on Saturday, and it's your best viewed show to date, which is phenomenal. If you missed out
over 50 people watching at one point as well.
Yeah,
massive show for you.
Yeah, 72 at its height. It's like, I think it's almost 1,000 views now, which is
well deserved. Well deserved. But how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I'm enjoying all the conversations. I don't need cable. All I need to do is just scroll through Twitter and YouTube all day. There's just so much conversation being had. I appreciate all the different takes and all the different opinions. I think it's really great, and we're gonna have a great conversation here as well. Shout out to OBM for coming in and enjoying our craziness and all the shenanigans that happened on Saturday. But
it was like the pregame.
Yeah, it was the pregame. Yes. To that 6-hour epic that I watched over and over again on Sunday. It was hilarious, absolutely great. But no, I agree with you that there have been some in the community who have they don't seem to understand their responsibility. They don't see the responsibility that they have, and we can all just yell into the ether. But some of us have a responsibility to be more measured in our approach, since we have so many people listening.
Yes.
So I do appreciate that you want to tackle that topic today, and I'm happy to be here. And I appreciate all the folks in the chat who came to watch the show and this Saturday and next Saturday. Hopefully, we'll do another great one. So I'm happy to be here. Josh, happy to have you here. It's going to be an interesting conversation.
Thank you.
And the Mag just snuck in at the tail end. So welcome, good sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mag. Speak of the devil, you are here. Welcome to the show, brother. Congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
Big Money Mag is what they call him.
Big Money Mag.
Myself and Spencer, we're going out for brunch next week.
I'm hoping we won't see you on new channel anymore, which is so sad.
That
unfortunately,
is correct. Yeah, there was a casualty of war, folks, and unfortunately, that was one of them. So just the way it worked out.
Yeah, obviously his show's late, and we know that you have to be out of here by 9. So a lot of times he's ducking out because he's got responsibilities. But you're here now,
yes, sir. Yes.
And I'm honestly really looking forward to hearing what you had to say, because our DM was lit up with a lot of our own personal disappointments with several people. Yes. And entities within the gaming media and in the content creation community that seem to really, instead of talking about the deal at hand and how important it was for the people, the human element factor that I talked about on the Iron Lords podcast, that this was simply just a deal that's egregious because it's Microsoft. So I can't wait to get your opinion on that. Welcome.
Yeah, well, yes, no, thank you. And let me tell you something. I know I'm just going to echo what everybody already said. Congratulations, Boom. And look at that, guys. 10,000. Think about this for half a second, okay? That is half a hockey arena, okay? Just think about that. Like you go to see that while the Toronto Maple Leafs or whatever team you follow, half a stadium, okay, is now following Boom on his channel or now subscribe to Boom on his channel. That is incredible. Think about that. Think about all the sea of faces. And you know what? Couldn't happen to a better guy. Let me tell you something. The guy works hard. I mean, I did 5 podcasts last week because of that announcement, right? And I just sat there and all I could think of is like, how the hell does Boom does this every week? I didn't even have a voice at the end of the week. It was unbelievable.
It's funny. By the end of the Saturday's Game of the Year podcast I do with my brother and my two best friends that we grew up with, I had done 7 shows in 6 days.
You need to get like a case of Bradisol just to keep your throat going. But anyways, guys, PTG crew members, good evening, everybody. And of course, Joshua James is here. Look at this, Xbox North. Joshua, just remember something. Remember who the king of the North is. And my throne is never challenged. But anyways, all seriousness, welcome to the show.
That would be me,
till today.
Watch. OBM.
Yes, sir.
You might as well just own the damn show. Thank God we're not talking about Halo. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to get 3 words in. But anyways, awesome to see you again, brother. Welcome. And guys, chat, everybody else, you know what? Incredible. I still have yet to see the Iron Lord show because I was really busy
it's so
yesterday.
Good. It's long. I mean, clean your house, go wash the car, take the kids to the park.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do something for 6 hours, and it'll fill up that time.
Oh, I was, as you can imagine, I'm extremely busy with the transfer of power, so to speak. So I had a lot of stuff to do and whatever else. And but you know what, Cognito? You see this? I'm looking at you. I didn't see an invite, buddy. Okay, I had a lot to say. Anyways, I'm just joking. I'm going to watch the show a little bit later. But anyways, guys, let's have a great show. We got some great things to talk about.
Oh, yeah, we absolutely do. And Everborn Saga, what's going on, brother? Welcome.
What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? We can't call you Boom anymore. It's 10K Boom. Okay. Now I just got off the phone with Phil. I need that whole row in size 13 Spencer.
Yeah.
And he says he's ready to go for tonight.
Well, listen, when Phil is ready, the email is ready to, and I will make a big deal out of me interviewing him or Sarah Bond for that matter, which, by the way, liked the new 10K Twitter picture, by the way, which is pretty dope. If to be honest,
and so did the beard. Didn't he get in there too?
Yes, the best, second. Is it the second best beard or is it the first best beard?
Oh, they can fight on that one.
Beard.
They can fight on that one.
The beard, Jason Ronald, good friend of the program.
I'll watch that on pay-per-view. Dutch versus the beard.
You know what? Before we get into it, I got to thank. We have Decado becomes a new channel member. I hope I pronounced it right. Thanks so much, brother. Definitely appreciate it. I saw you in the chat early and often. Thank you so much for becoming a channel member. Joseph Doherty drops a $2 super chat and says, "Beanox, make an Xbox kart racer for Boom." Oh, indeed, yes. We also have. Resting Craig Face drops I
love that.
a $10 super chat, and he says 10K with the party smashers. Thanks so much for that. I definitely appreciate the generosity, but of course the encouragement. Yeah, 10K is a big deal for the channel. John Wolf drops an outstanding $2 super chat and says, "Boom, at 10K, we need to get Phil on the show. Trust me, I am working on it." King Fish 737 drops a $10 super chat and says, "Congratulations on the 10K Boom. You and your entire panel makes my Monday." Well, thanks, dude. That's really awesome of you to say. I consider your stream my weekly briefing and news for all things gaming. Well, dude, that's pretty awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the kind words and the show. We also have Brett Bingham, generous friend of the show. He drops a $10 super chat and says, a big howdy to the panel. Xbox needs a present in Japan. Indeed, they do. Microsoft needs to get either 1 or 2 publishers, Sega, Bandai Namco, Capcom, etc. Go after the names like Kojima, Itagaki, Mistwalker, and Platinum Games. Yeah, Platinum Games, I don't know after what happened with them. They might still be on the Pay No Mind list, but we'll see. Pragmatic Eagle. Wow, dude. He drops, folks. a $50 super chat. My God, Pragmatic Eagle, thank you so much for the generosity. He says, congratulations on hitting 10K. I personally thank you for being a consistent, positive individual in this oft negative community. You are a true champion, and you will always have my support. Peace, love, and respect, my brother. Wishing you the best. Well, thank you, dude. That is very kind of you for the very generous $50, but it's the kind words that I value even more. Yes, sir.
After you read this, may I request that Everborn put a little bit of bacon stank on this one? Go ahead, please.
Yes, I will let him read that one. Bunty drops a $2 super chat. Thank you for the generosity. Bunty, you are amazing. He says, 10K, bow, bow, bow. Enough respect. Boom, you deserve it. And Brett Bingham drops a $5 one. Go ahead, do it, Everborn.
Good. You know you want to. He's speechless.
Gun shy now.
He's speechless.
You might see it later on.
All right. So, Brett Brigham, we're gonna have. We don't have King to bring us Jamaican Jim, but we will have Everborn deliver that later on.
I want to do an interview with Jamaican Jim one day, I would like to have a conversation with that man.
I would like to have a conversation with him too. But listen, folks, let's get into what we're here for. Now, we have seen. Wait, there's a lot of kickback. Someone's got something going on in the background. Yeah, I hear some noise.
Sounds
in the
like
back.
Loud static.
Yeah, like TV or something. Uh-oh. Yeah, one bad mother. I think it's you, brother.
Oh, well, I think there's snow blowers or something over there.
Okay, all right.
I'll try to mute myself.
Are you podcasting outside?
There's a lot of snow, and I was hearing that's why I took my headset off. I'm like,
it snowed like 2 inches here in Toronto, so.
Yeah, I think it was pretty loud. So if I hear that again, I will mute myself.
All right, Joshua.
No problem. No problem.
Joshua,
Listen,
look out your window, dude.
Yes, what we're here to talk about today is something that has been making the news. It was a big topic on the Iron Lords podcast yesterday. And listen, we're not. At least I'm not throwing Colin Moriarty under the bus. The man, he's a self-made man, right? And I followed his career since the beginning. He started out at IGN. He left with Greg Miller to start Kind of Funny. Things happened there. He left there, and he obviously started, Last Stand Media, which is an incredible raging success. Colin has always been a guy that speaks his mind, which is one of the reasons why I gravitated toward his content. But one of the things that disappointed me about him over this Microsoft Activision Blizzard announcement was how he seemed to go out of his way to paint a negative aspect on this deal based on, as a matter of fact, and his feelings. He's a PlayStation guy, right? He's gonna wear his PlayStation flag on his wrist, and that's fine. I'm an Xbox guy. I'm gonna wear my flag on my wrist, right? So, but the difference here, folks, is one of the things that he said that I unbelievably disagreed with was that this deal somehow was gonna stifle creativity at those studios, and I'm sorry to say, that is narratively false for a lot of reasons. Look at the thumbnail. Folks, I got a lot of kickback with it. Two people like, how come you didn't add this studio, that studio? Folks, it's a thumbnail. You can only put so many on a thumbnail. These are the ones that jump off the page for me. There's 8 of them. Those 8 studios were, and I'm using Kay Asante's line here, for the last at least 5 years, potentially more, in the salt mines of Call of Duty, right? Every one of those studios were support studios. If you look at their history of some of the games and IPs that they have created, they are master works. So to suggest that this is going to stifle creativity when clearly every one of these studios were working on Call of Duty, again, narratively false. Okay. Rich Review Tech USA. I saw his video on it, And listen, I'll be honest with you. I've been following Rich for years. I disagree with half the things he says. And this one I disagreed. He tried to, watching the video, he tried to make this out to be something like, he kept mentioning Disney and all the IPs and everything that they own, and somehow tried to equate that to what Microsoft is currently doing. Even at 38 studios, they're still number 3 in regards to the finances. And if you look at Embracer Group, I think they have 86 studios. It's almost a third. They're literally a third of what Embracer Group currently owns. So I didn't understand that. And the rat of the whole thing, and I have nothing nice to say about him, and I don't think anyone does, is Jason Schreier, the troll, who blocked me for calling him a pompous ass, and he proved himself once again live on Twitter when he said that if he wasn't on vacation, he was going to reach out to some buddies of him over at the SOJ to talk about how this is a monopoly. And you know something, again, it's these kind of statements from people that are very, very high on the totem pole. I think it's inexcusable and it's reckless. It's reckless behavior. You have a responsibility to go out there, and if it is your opinion, say it's your opinion, but do not sell it as a matter of fact. And what Microsoft has done with this particular deal is nothing short of what Sony has gone out of their way to do since the last generation. And I want to break this down. And
let's be clear though, if they could afford to do it.
If they could, they can't afford to do it because I think what podcast was in this? I think Jeff Grubb said they're like $2 trillion in the hole, something like that. I don't know if that's true, and I don't know if he was just messing around. But I was listening to Game On Daily, and that was a great show. They had Miles Dompierre and Jeff Grubb on with Gaz and his buddy, and it was a great show.
It might be 2 trillion yen. I don't know if it's $2 trillion.
Yeah, whatever it is, they're apparently in the hole. But look, let's just paint the picture.
You know what? A quick Google tells you that he is right. It is said that they are 2 trillion in debt. $2.9 trillion.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
What? There you go.
Dollars or
dollars?
Dollars.
The hole is in the hole. So
it's
so
the debt and earning, essentially borrowing. It's 2 trillion worth of borrowing. Future.
Yeah, they would have to borrow, like if they wanted to buy any publisher, they'd have to borrow like $7 billion or anything. If anything, I would be more worried about Sony getting purchased now.
Yes, they talked about that on the Iron Lords. Yeah, they said that as a matter of fact. But
we don't want that though.
No, we definitely don't want that. But here's the thing:
Microsoft doesn't want that.
if we bring this all the way back to the PlayStation 4, Sony has been playing cutthroat ball the entire generation, right? Street Fighter 5, which it's Street Fighter. It's freaking Street Fighter, locked behind the PlayStation. And you know what? No one batted an eye. People got out there and they championed this, right? Spider-Man. Now, I absolutely get that Insomniac is a first party and they're making it for a PlayStation. That's not the problem. The problem is that Spider-Man is the most recognizable character in the entire comic genre. I'm not talking about Marvel, DC. I'm talking about the whole kit and caboodle. Add anybody from Image. Add anybody from Dark Horse. Anyone that you want, any of your favorite books, Spider-Man is the face of the universe when it comes to comic books. Somehow or another, they found a way, and I know how they did it. They used the leverage that they have with MCU Spider-Man, with Marvel and Disney, to make sure that, hey, this sharing agreement that we got going on, it's great for all of us. We're all making money, but we want to further the point. No Marvel characters that are first party on the console. And how do I deduct this? Well, I don't know. Marvel's Avengers for the Xbox did not get Spider-Man. And even though Spider-Man was a disaster, was a disaster of a DLC, they didn't get Spider-Man, the face of freaking Marvel. So let's continue this conversation, shall we? If you look back at what they did in the PlayStation 4, how many times did we have this conversation? When is it coming to Xbox? 4 to 8 games per year did not come to an Xbox near you because Sony money had it. They made it their personal business to lock down whatever game came out that year that you wanted to play. If you only had Xbox, tough titty, right? Like the words of Richard Pryor, the great Richard Pryor, right? We're hearing people say, well, Ms. Boom, it's not really right, because what if the person only has a PlayStation? Well, you know what? You can play in 18 different ways. You can play on your refrigerator on an Xbox through the cloud. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the complaints. I think that narrative is preposterous. But let's continue the conversation, shall we? I don't know if it's widely known, but Starfield, Sony tried to lock that down as their own IP from Bethesda as a permanent exclusive. Do you realize that? I'm not sure how common knowledge that is, but they actually tried to do that, right? So Knights of the Old Republic. Do you know when that's coming to an Xbox near you, which was originally an exclusive? Well, you could probably wait 2 years if you even get it. So
At least.
Right, at least 2 years. So let's bring it back. I've talked enough. I've talked myself into a stupor. I want to go first to OBM on this, then we'll bring Josh and then the rest of the panel in. OBM, when you hear that many of the high-profile industry movers and shakers, including some of the bigger sites, are somehow sad for Sony players, I find it. Why is there such an open door, double standard? Sony good, Xbox bad. I'm not making this stuff up, folks. This is a sad reality. By all means, give us your opinion, OBM.
Yeah, so much to unpack and say. I am going to try to leave at least a few minutes for Mag to talk. First thing I do want to say about the show Iron Lords of the Weekend. I've been listening to them for a few years, and they were like one of the shows, and I told Cog this. One of the shows that kind of inspired me to want to get involved with this stuff because of how they try to bring people together of different opinions. So I first want to just really give kudos to that. When I did hear Colin, one of my friends who's in these gaming communities, some of you may even have an idea who that is, called me up and said, hey, are you hearing what he's saying? I'm like, yeah, says, but I don't necessarily agree. But I will say, the fact, I think it's good to allow people to come with these different perspectives. I do really respect what COG does and the rest of the ILP crew does to bring in, just different perspectives. Because what Colin was saying, I think we're probably going to agree on a lot of specific points, but I would also emphasize that it is the way a lot of people are feeling from that side, from that perspective, right? Like I don't go to Reset Era as much as I used to. I decided to peek there just because Activision. I went there and I saw all the cars on fire and people without clothes running across the street. It was a mess. Just to see what that looked like. And really, when I heard what he said is really echoing what a lot of his base is saying. A lot of the people that are in that platform, that have been in that platform for 20-25 years, how they're feeling. And one of my responses too, like because I actually decided to write something there for the first time in a long time, was that I feel like the gaming communities right now, a lot of us are just now understanding how real capitalism works for the first time. And if you've grown up in the console wars, you've been trained to think about it in a very specific way, almost like it's a sport. We tend to believe like there's a standard accepted rules of competition about like who can. Whoops, 1 second. I just got to give my daughter a hug. And like there's these standard rules of competition, and and this is how it's supposed to work. It just becomes the precedent set over the years. And really, when you look back at that precedent, the playbooks used in the past. I mean, every corporation has been very cutthroat, right? Like Nintendo was, Sony was, all of them to get their position. And this whole thing about good guy, bad guy, it's just people rooting for their sports team at the end of the day.
Yes.
But does anybody doubt that if Jim Ryan could snap his fingers and cut Microsoft Gaming's throat and end them in the industry, that they would? Like,
in a second they would. Yeah.
And it's part of business, right? They have a strategic, like they have an obligation to their investors to make as much with them, and that means, if that means killing off something else, that's what they do. That's what they're supposed to be there. And he's about as cutthroat as they can get. And I don't really bitch about it because he's doing his job, right? Like, he's trying to protect.
It's not show friends.
Yeah, it's not show friends, it's show business. Yes, sir. And that's, but the interesting, the one where I probably would go in on the most is, I heard Colin and kind of representing that base, like, the fandom. But when I saw Schreier, it's like, you work for a business publication.
Yes.
And you are, false equivalency is probably not the right word. Like, you're taking a word and its meaning, and you're maybe misapplying it in some cases. Like, this is an example of consolidation, yes, but is the industry consolidating? and when you look at it that way, I actually wrote an article about this last year, because Schreier came out and he came out in an article and basically talked about the Bethesda purchase, and basically wanted to say that and that this is something to be concerned about, because an industry dominated by a handful of big companies is eventually going to lead to creative stagnation and other symptoms of monopolization, like limited choices and higher prices. And he said, he did acknowledge, hey, it's great to see developers finding financial success, but it's hard not to be worried about the long-term ramifications for video game fans and makers. By the time we receive the results, it might be too late. And so I kind of went back against that, because you take all those things one by one, and you look at like where the industry's been. 20 years ago, where it was when it was kind of growing, there was a lot of diversity and things like that. But what you've actually started to see over the last generation is you started to see the opposite, right? In a lot of cases, as things became risky and the market kind of like wasn't growing as aggressively. But right now, like what we're seeing now is like this rebirth of diversity. There's more developers this year than there was last year.
Yes.
There's big publishers that are jumping in because it's a good investment, because it's growing. And when
amazing tools for smaller developers.
How many new studios are being opened up by people that either sold their business or left other big developers?
Exactly.
Right.
Or expanding their studios.
And that's the thing. Yeah, that is the aspect that it seems like, if you're working for a business publication, I feel like you would understand some of the basics, because this is actually a normal. The things that you are seeing happening are normal parts of capitalism, whether you like capitalism or not. This is normal, and this is part of a healthy market, a growing market, where you get a bunch of people jump in. It's going to fragment, and then over time, it's going to start to consolidate a little bit when it matures. But all this investment, this consolidation, is because of they're so bullish. These companies are bullish on the market. It's a good place to invest. That's a good thing. If you are a game developer, you're in higher demand today, probably than ever. Right? Like the value that you're bringing now to all these corporations is greater than ever. So now, does that mean that some corporations, like as things move around, are going to be at risk? Yeah. And Activision was one of those at risk. And my cat is a jerk every time. Everboard and Asante already know the cat just does that thing over and over. Like basically, God, he just distracts me. But so the gist of it is right now, what you saw with Activision was an example of capitalism working, where a big company, if you're publicly traded, your job is to make more money every year, because nobody's going to invest in you if they think you're going to return them the same amount of money in 5-10 years. And Activision hit their peak, and they were a mess, and they were actually backsliding. They sold probably lower than they would have wanted to. Like a year or two ago, they probably thought when they would have gotten out, they would have been able to sell for more. But they got out because they were going in the wrong direction. And this is what happens when a company is starting to fail, and then a bigger fish comes in and sucks them up. But what's going to happen is developers now are going to start their own companies, especially in the way the gaming industry is. It's healthier than it's ever been. As a developer, you can go to another studio that's in another country now, right? Like that is something that was like unheard of a few years ago. So we because now we're all learning how to work remotely. And so I guess I push back on that stuff. I feel like Schreier should know better. I feel like other people like that you're seeing, Henri said, and I allow people to kind of express their feelings. I think a lot of it is just part of this emotion that's not allowing them to be rational about and understand how the system even works. But it is working. And right now there's no guarantees, right? Like this is a new endeavor for even Microsoft. This isn't like Bethesda. Activision needs a lobotomy. This isn't like, hey,
there's nothing about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
From the culture to the creativity to the structure to everything. It's not like Bethesda where you're like, hey, we're just going to open the treasure chest. We trust you guys. Go at it. Make games. Do your best thing. This is not like that. There's a lot of, but there's a lot of opportunity here, right? Like it was going in the wrong direction, and now there's opportunity for the employees. There's opportunity for people that, from a creative standpoint, there's opportunities from a consumer standpoint to get products that we were not getting. Higher quality, more diversity, things like that. So there's a lot of opportunity to be excited about. There's no guarantees. So if people want to kind of talk about, what are the potential pitfalls, that's fair. But crying about it as in like, well, this isn't fair. This is business. And the reason why you're seeing these types of things now for the first time is the industry, the projections are just so astronomically high. This is no longer an industry for toy companies. It's an industry for tech giants, whether you like that or not. That's just where it's going because it's getting so big. From a consumer standpoint, as long as there's competition, which there's more than there's ever been, as long as there's
every year it's grown.
Yeah, and it's getting more competitive with more options and more democratization for developers. So I just feel like, again, I think people need to take a step back. It's this console war sport is over. It doesn't matter. I don't care if PlayStation outsells Xbox 2-1, like that VGC article says. Microsoft's not going to go, oh, well, I guess we're getting out of gaming tomorrow.
That article definitely came out before Tuesday.
Right. Yeah. I know. But that's what, I guess what I'm saying is the console wars are over. People are still thinking about it that way. They're still thinking about Microsoft versus Sony. I would even argue, I need to save some room here, but I would even argue that Microsoft doesn't want Sony and Nintendo to fall back, become weak.
No, they don't. They want them to be healthy. Healthy competition is good, but again, this is a lot. There was a lot of pushback from a lot of big time industry people, like you said, literally should know better. And a lot of the kickback was self-motivated shenanigans. As best way I could describe it. Josh, let's get your opinion on this. You heard what Colin had to say. I don't know if you listened to the rest of the industry, because certainly Collins was the loudest, simply because he did his tweet, he did his spiel, and then he went back at it on the Iron Lords, and he drove his point home again. He believes he's right. I don't think he's right. I think that that's his opinion, and I think that it is motivated by a fan of the brand, and that's his brand. He wants to see his brand succeed. But to suggest that there's a lack of creativity, somehow this is going to cause a vortex for Sony to stop making quality games because they have to catch up. There were a lot of assumptions in his commentation, and I disagree with them all. Sony just has to get back to what Sony knows, and they have a lot of IP they could fall back on. And they spent some money last year. They bought a handful of studios to help deliver. I don't see, he was not certainly complaining about that. And I think if the shoe was on the other foot and it was Sony that bought Activision, he says that he'd be mad at it. I don't believe that, but again, that's subjective. What are your thoughts on the double standard that seems to be Microsoft bad, Sony good?
Well, there is absolutely a double standard out there. Like even Dustin Legary called it out from IGN.
Yeah, he did
before he went to bed that one night, and I can see where their nervousness comes from. It's their bread and butter in the end, right? It's the Sacred Symbols podcast. I'm a huge fan of Colin. I like a lot of his opinions, but there's some opinions that I don't understand as well. And to say it will, let's say, hurt creativity, I feel like Activision has already hurt their creativity over there.
Indeed.
Look, we got, and Colin talks about some of his favorite games from Raven Studio, like Singularity or
fantastic game. PS, by the way.
But like stuff like that, and then they get shoved onto just making Call of Duty stuff. So I feel like there is a great opportunity to bring creativity back into those to those companies. I almost feel like when Phil Spencer said, when this deal is done, they're going to answer to me. I feel like that was a beacon to developers. Come, you hear all the nice things about me.
Yes.
You want to come work for me? We're going to make this the best place to work for, period. And I feel like that statement was not just for fans and not just to Bobby Kotick, but to developers saying this is going to be a different place going forward. But let's not kid ourselves. How did Sony get into this industry? They got it into this industry out of spite towards Nintendo.
That's right. The deal fell through that they were going to work together. And they said, you know what? Screw Nintendo. We're going to go do our own thing.
Exactly. And who did they take when they went? They took Final Fantasy VII, which is one of the biggest games. But that Final Fantasy was a Nintendo franchise.
It was for years.
For years. It started on Nintendo. I'd say arguably Final Fantasy VI is probably one of the best Final Fantasies.
Yes, my brother Neo Mendo would agree with you.
And so Sony does these things too. And I feel like people forget about franchises like, well, how did they treat franchises like Killzone or The Getaway or Sly Cooper? Or what about SOCOM? There are companies within Sony, and we've heard from a lot of developers lately, from past developers, from the people who made Days Gone.
Yes. They were very vocal about how they were treated by Sony, correct.
But talking about the realities of it, not like the outside perception. I feel like, of course, there is an absolute bias out there towards Sony, which in my gut, I just don't understand. And especially in the last since Phil Spencer has taken over.
Yeah, so he got the big boy seat in the summer of 2017.
Yeah, so we've had consistency going from, let's say, that point on, and I feel like they've kind of proven themselves that, Psychonauts 2, you can say was developed mostly under the Microsoft banner, right?
Yeah.
And that game,
well, a lot of I mean, Josh, to your point, and if people didn't know this, Tim Schafer, who is just a legend in the industry, he's already come out and said publicly, if it wasn't for Microsoft taking on Double Fine, that half the things that were in Psychonauts 2 that made it this incredible release of 2021, like the boss battles, for instance, would not have made it into it because it was a crowd-funded game.
Also, look at Playground Games. This is a company that came out of Codemasters, from what I know, and proved themselves with an already established franchise of Forza, doing a spin-off. You can say even doing it better, and then giving the key to the Fable franchise to kind of spread their wings and show their creative. I'm curious if they asked to do that. They're a very British company. I could see them maybe requesting to have that franchise.
What I know about Fable especially when we're talking about playground games, is apparently they were working on this third-person fantasy narrative game. And before they were purchased by Microsoft, they showed it. And they said,
Okay.
"Oh, again, this is hearsay. This is someone that told me this, of course. So don't. It's not fact. That was one of the deciding factors of, hey, listen, we're gonna give the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, for Fable. Make this a Fable game." And that's, again, this is just hearsay, folks. Is what I heard. I don't know how much truth it is, but if that in fact is the case, there's your answer, Josh.
Yeah, and also the Coalition. I hear we know they're making Gear 6 to finish the story, but we hear they're making a smaller project as well on top of that. So you can't tell me there's not creativity going on when we can clearly see these things kind of happening. And I feel like, look at Ninja Theory, look at Hellblade 2. I feel like every time we see an update for that game, they're doing something crazy in the studio, burning some like something, going out, having the money and resources to do research on mental health, to do research of the terrain that they're going to, just to have those resources. I feel like they're kind of unchained now. And from that 6-minute trailer, like, come on, like, I that looks amazing. So I just feel like the perception right now is a lot of people see a lot of money being thrown around, and I get that. But
that's big business for you. Money.
That is
turns the world.
Well, and from a lot of the things I've heard from like this week, it's almost like puffing your chest out and being like to the other companies and be like, you want to play in this playground? This is the kind of money you're going. And you know what? There was only one kind of company that responded back, and it was Netflix. They came back and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have a world-class gaming experience."
Yep, they sure did.
Don't you worry. Don't you worry about that. So, I found that to be very interesting. And considering the rumors from months ago with Sony kind of talking with Netflix, I could see this kind of putting a fire under if there is a possible deal going on with that. Happening for sure.
I mean, it's certainly a possibility, and you really did bring up an idea that I'm going to pass along to Wandering Dutch. Dutch, you have been extremely vocal, and one of the things that I think people seem to forget about is specifically Elden Ring. We have it on good confirmed authority that the bag or bags were dropped at the doorsteps of From Software and Bandai Namco. And those money bags were returned to sender in regards to Microsoft, because from what we understand, they were afraid to upset Sony. And I think if that is not a stamp at how much more can Sony take from Xbox? So when Xbox pushes back and actually beats up the bully, it's a problem. And I want you to kind of talk about that, because you had a lot of really, really strong opinions, and I want to let you loose on the world here. Take it away.
Yeah, certainly. When we're talking about, first of all, to kind of talk about the space in which both of these companies compete in right now, and we have to be brutally honest, these both companies are in two entirely different spaces right now. For Sony to look at competing in terms of monetary gains, it is impossible. It's way beyond their means.
Yes.
But even on a grander scale, Sony are not competing in the same space that Microsoft are in general. Microsoft, when they said all in on gaming, they assuredly meant it, and they didn't mean just console gaming, and that's the difference between Sony and Xbox. The game plans between the two companies are entirely different. The space in which Microsoft are operating, when they said Nintendo and Sony are not our competitors, they meant that. they're
A lot of
talking
people got
about
offended about that statement
Yeah.
there, Dutch.
because they didn't understand the actual true meaning behind that. They didn't mean they aren't competing on the console front. What they said was they aren't who we're competing against. And the reason they said that was because it's the likes of Tencent,
Yep.
the likes of Embracer Group, the likes of quite a few other large monopoly, what you would class as a monopoly, or
Facebook.
yeah,
Facebook, yeah. Mhm.
yeah,
Apple.
Facebook,
Apple,
Amazon,
huge. Yeah.
all of those who are steadily acquiring studios at a rapid pace. Prior mentioned, obviously, Embracer Group. Although the studios they've acquired aren't of significant size, the quantity of studios is, however, sitting at over 90 studios currently. They again, as mentioned, if you were listening to ILP yesterday, I'm an ambassador for a company who was merged with Embracer Group. So I've seen the forms that come once you are acquired by Embracer. So the only thing I can say about which is different to Embracer and Tencent, and I think is only a slight positive that people need to know about Embracer and the way they operate, is they are very much a little bit like Microsoft in their thinking, in terms of they're a bit more hands off.
Yeah, they kind of let their developers do their thing. Yeah,
They do their thing. They provide the funding they need and the equipment they need to do what they want to do and to expand the business in which they want to expand. So I don't foresee them being a negative impact on the community. Tencent, however, is a different ballgame. Very much very different in the way they operate. Obviously, massive Asian market, very mobile focused, and this is where Microsoft are looking to compete. And when they mentioned we are not competing with Nintendo or Sony, that specific market, the mobile sector, is exactly what they meant in terms of the broader scale of the gaming sector. The console market, as much as people would love to believe is huge, is a very small minority, in compared to the grander gaming sector. The mobile market and the cloud market make up an subordinate amount. I mean, as mentioned several times already, Candy Crush by itself has 250 million active users a month. That's just one little mobile game. So when they're talking about looking at this bigger, grander scale, that 250 million users is larger than Xbox
and here's the
Nintendo
difference.
and
Here's the difference,
combined.
Dutch. They're
Yep.
spending the money.
Yep, they're spending big time. But it's not the spending that Microsoft are looking to do. The reason of acquired, and the class it as a hostile takeover. The reason of acquired for what is almost $10 above share price for Activision is just to make sure the deal gets done. They're overcompensating. Microsoft always overcompensates so that everything, there can't be any kind of hitches. There can't be anybody complaining. There can't be shareholders disgruntled at a certain share price afterwards or beforehand, or any disagreements during the takeover. They just want, right here, this is the money. It's over asking. You can't complain about the funding.
Yep.
You've got your money. Now move along.
Bug off.
Yep. Now move along.
I also think these companies are starting to realize they need developers, because if this Internet 3.0, this metaverse is going to be a virtual space, you need people to build it, right?
Yeah, you need
And you
people
know
to make
what?
games. Correct.
The metaverse as well, and that's a good point bringing it up there, because people don't understand what Microsoft mean by their metaverse. Now, what Microsoft mean by their metaverse is a connected community,
Yes.
across all platforms. So whether that be on console, PC, mobile, or any of the above, whatever it is that you're playing on, it's all connected. So you can access your profiles, you can do this, you can interact with people, you can see your stuff at all points, no matter what you're playing it on, what you're doing it on. You can speak to people on any platform. That's a metaverse. That's connecting the entire community into one ecosystem. That is Microsoft's metaverse. And they're obviously looking to improve and grow that as time goes on. And the mobile market itself is the investment. So when people were looking at that and they thought COD was the gem on that,
It's not.
on that
Not even
purchase.
close.
The gem on that purchase was King.
Yes.
The reason they purchased Activision was King. They are the second largest mobile developer behind Zynga. And that is why that was purchased. They are looking to steadily grow in all markets. They've already got, as everybody knows, pretty much an 80% share of the PC market. That they've already had the monopoly issues with PC previously. They don't want to reignite that.
Right.
But when we're talking about mobile market, that's fair game currently. King and Zynga are really going at it in a different space, completely different space to what everybody's used to. On the worry about creativity, I touched on this yesterday. The worry about creativity is an absolute non-starter. These studios have been absolutely stifled by Activision for quite some time, and Bobby Kay, who can obviously just rot in hell whenever he departs.
Yep.
Jez Corden's obviously done a numerous amount of articles on how he
For a couple of years now, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's absolutely abhorrent. It should never have happened, and it should never have got the extent it has. But good riddance to him within 12 to 18 months. Hopefully, we'll never see him grace the.
You'll never hear from him again. He's just he's gonna bow out in his $300 million golden parachute.
Yeah, I hope so. But you never know with people like this. The devil loves to play in fire.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. No. You're absolutely right. But listen, well, once again, completely knocked it out of the park, Dutch. Anything else you want to add to it, brother?
Yeah, it's overall the real thoughts behind this and the animosity that some of these people are getting goes a long way into their lack of understanding into the legalities, the actual terms behind the words they're using, like monopoly, etc., where they don't quite understand what a monopoly means.
Yes.
They don't understand what a lot of the terminology that they're using on social platforming means at all, to be honest, in any way, shape, or form. And obviously, to be a monopoly, you have to have the vast majority of a particular sector under your control. Microsoft, even with this acquisition, would only be touching 15 to 17% of the entire sector. So they're miles off. It's not even close.
You know, and to build onto what you're saying there, this is another thing that kind of pissed me off about the Jason Schreier comment. Sorry, I just like to go at him because he should know better.
Well, he's a pompous ass for a reason. Absolutely.
When he talked about the horizontal integration was what what the government was going to be looking into. They do look into horizontal integration. You know, anything that's going to eliminate competition, drive prices up for consumers. And again, going back to everything I was saying before, we're not seeing that happen, right? Like right now, the value of gaming is getting better than it ever has. And if anything, this competition is going to drive Sony to offer similar types of value propositions and others, right? Oh, go ahead.
Can I just add, because I had to step away, check on some family stuff for a second, so I don't know what I missed. But in any category where we would decide that this is a monopoly, it doesn't pass the smell test, right? No. Number of studios does not pass the smell test. Revenue does not pass the smell test. Limit it to the console market does not pass the smell test in terms of revenue or console sales.
Right. They're going to be third in console, way behind Steam and PC. So they have no mobile presence.
This as well. I was going to say the one thing I want to add to this as a whole, because I think people get caught up in it a lot, is people think monopoly is based on the size of a business in terms of the value. I think they see Microsoft as being obviously the second largest tech company in the world, flip-flopping around with Apple, sometimes first, sometimes second. It's weekly changing. But they see this value, they see this subordinate $2.3 trillion, $2.5 trillion company, and they just automatically assume monopoly. And they think that because of value, because of transactional money or share price or whatever it is, they see market cap and they think that's a massive company and they own everything. That isn't how monopolies work. Just because a company's value is massive, that's because of the propositions that they offer to a market that are valued at that extent. The reason share price goes up is because of the value proposition that shareholders deem it to be. The whole market itself, the whole stock market, as it were, is based on how a company performs, the proposition, and how the shareholders forecast that particular proposition to further perform going forwards. If they forecast it to further increase, if there's any dips in its performance, that's when you'll see the ups and downs. So the whole understanding around what a monopoly entails, or what companies qualify for a monopoly, you don't have to be a huge company to have a monopoly on the market. You could be like I say, you could be like a Tencent. Like, they're not one of the biggest companies in the world, but they could quite easily end up with a monopoly if they just continue to acquire and acquire and acquire and acquire. It doesn't necessarily mean they've got infinite amounts of revenue coming in, because that's not what it's all about. It's really
buying competition. Yeah, it's buying competition, right? Like it's looking at your competitors, and that's the difference. And I know I use like technical things between that vertical and horizontal integration. Yeah. The horizontal is when you're buying your competitors. That's like Microsoft buying Sony, or buying Steam, or buying Valve, right? Like exactly. that would. Now, I'm not going to say there's not going to be any scrutiny. There might be some, especially these days.
It has to be scrutinized.
Yeah, and there's going to be politicians grandstanding. That's part of it, especially with the big tech corporation. But at the end of the day, like when you kind of look what's going to happen once it's all said and done, the odds greatly say that when you look at, they're basically, when you say it's a vertical consolidation, is because they're a platform, and they're basically the primary values that are coming in. These are the content creators for that platform, right? This is not, now you could argue like, well, Call of Duty does compete with Halo or something like that, but in those markets, that is still like such a small part of it, right? So it's such a tiny piece when you start looking at it that way, that it's going to be very, very difficult for them to make the case. And that's why I feel like it's a bit disingenuous to kind of go, oh, well, this is going to be in trouble because there's some aspects of, you're swallowing your competitors. Like Microsoft and Activision, maybe they compete in a couple different lanes fairly, but it's not to any side. It's not to the point where you're going to reduce competition to the point where it's going to hurt consumers and, the products. And in fact, I would argue it's the opposite right now.
I absolutely agree. I mean, great points from everyone. I do want to move the conversation along to Kay Asante, because we were having an amazing behind-the-scenes conversation that he's going to get into, but I got to catch up with some of the super chats. We had Jay the Earp drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, congrats on 10K. You deserve it. Thank you for that. Nightwolf 3186 drops a very generous $10 super chat and says, these same people crying outrage for monopoly and creative loss are the same people that will trash new Crash, Banjo, X-Men Singularity games instead of praising that these games are finally back. You are right. Andrew Guts drops a $2 super chat, and he says this 2.9 trillion yen is only, we actually confirmed that it was the millions, not so much the yen. But thank you, Andrew, for the very generous $2.
Well, hold on a minute. We do.
He redacted it. He redacted
it. He did. Okay.
That's the carry is zero, so it's 25 billion.
Okay. All right. Well,
so 2.9 trillion is 25 billion, but Sony's debt is not 2.9 trillion yen. It is 2.09 trillion yen, which works out to about like 17 billion or something along those lines. So yes, over 10 billion in debt. But a lot of companies carry debt as long as their revenue is a lot higher than the interest. It's fine. Not all debt is bad debt. So
that's entirely true. A Silent Cipher, who's been a member for 4 months, to Here Comes the Boom, says, good evening to Boom and the always awesome panel. Happy to be with you this evening. You guys rock. Well, thank you for the kind words. And wow, this is big. Crazy Lou Gaming, and he does something crazy like he did today with putting himself in his boxers on camera. Very brave of you, my brother. He drops, folks. A $100 super chat says, Boom, I wanted to say congratulations for hitting 10K. Thank you for being such an awesome mentor and such a great person. Well, dude, that's worth way more than the $100. Thank you for the generosity, but it's the kind words that I appreciate. He says, stay strong and keep the channel growing. Boom, you deserve it. Best wishes from the crazy one and his team at the Xbox International Podcast. Thank you so much, brother. Definitely appreciate the insane, like your name, crazy generosity. Biggie Butters drops an outstanding and very generous $10 super chat and says, congratulations, Boom, on reaching 10K. And sorry for forgetting to add a few zeros to the super chat. Don't be ridiculous, dude. The fact that you are here is more than enough. We don't do this for the money. We do this for the fun of the conversation. Kay Asante. Again, this show, we don't throw anybody under the bus. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, even though we may not agree with it. What the Iron Lords did yesterday, having Colin on, so he did explain himself, was great. Awesome. I do love the way Hogue Law broke it down, because obviously that's his job. So he broke it down in a way that even the commoners like myself could understand. Man. Yeah, word ninjas indeed.
Yeah, definitely.
But there is a lot of talk in the gaming spaces. And I'm not talking about the Reddits. I'm not talking about the 4chans. I'm not talking about the Twitter warriors. I'm actually talking about some high-profile members of the gaming community, as well as the content creation community. And they're really selling this deal as and again, it's opinions. I get it, but I still stand strong that we have a responsibility if we're going to get out there. We got to be forthcoming and honest about things, and I think a lot of them have not been. I think they wore this. I feel bad because it's not my platform on their opinions. What are your thoughts on this?
No, I completely agree with you. We've been having conversations about this for a little while, and it's not even excuse me, it's not even the fact that they have an opinion that may be opposing to yours. Everybody has the right to have an opinion.
Indeed.
That may not be your opinion, and that's fine, right? But me as a little guy, and like you said, it's not the 4chan, it's not the single a couple hundred follower people on Twitter, right? I think when you hit a certain level, and that I can see that is why specifically OBM is taking shots at Mr. Schreier, because he should know better.
He absolutely should know better. But he wants to sell books. Yeah. That's what he wants to do.
And he does have influence too. That's the other thing.
Exactly.
He does create a frenzy.
And in their own way, all these high profile folks have influence. That's why you can see these executives go on this YouTube channel show, or this, or get interviewed by these, because they move minds, right? When you hit a certain level, you've been calling yourself Mr. BoomStick, you've been calling yourself a small show for a while. You're at 10K, you move minds. As the mag says, if you put these guys in the stadium, it's a lot of heads, right? You move minds. So once that happens, you have a responsibility. Let's bring Spider-Man in here. With great power comes great responsibility.
Indeed,
you have a responsibility to check your words. Even if you're not the authority in the room, you must make it clear that what you're saying is your feeling of the matter and your opinion on the matter. I don't like this. I feel this way. But to shroud your conversation in fact and not be clear about your intentions, that is, as OBM has correctly used the term, it's very disingenuous.
Indeed,
right? It's very disingenuous. So, and of course, if you guys have heard me speak a few times, that I don't agree with most things that Mr. Moriarty says. I've followed his career for a while. I've watched him on IGN for a long time. I even watched him on Kind of Funny, and not all of them have opinions that I agree with. But it's good to get opinions from other sources. No need to be an echo chamber, as it were, right? Maybe you'll learn something new. And I will say that on the Island Lords podcast, I learned something, right? Because initially I really thought he was being malicious about it, but then listening to them, and shout out to Lord Cognito, he is the best ringmaster you can have, because he was able to
pulled it out of him.
Pull it out, right?
Yeah, he pulled
it
out of him.
It's just my feeling on the matter. It's how I feel. I'm old school. This is how I feel it should be.
That's not how he originally painted the picture, though.
Exactly. That
And
is where I have my issue. And not to single him out, because he's not the only one that has been doing it, right? There have been a lot of voices out there who maybe you used to be a small cat, maybe you used to be able to scream into the Twitter ether and just, bounce off a few people. But once you when you look back at your follower count and the heads start to grow, it becomes your responsibility to think twice, to, maybe proofread, maybe, analyze what other thoughts might happen, because you're literally, not everyone will look at the terms that you make or the things you're saying and just take that's his opinion on it, right? Many people follow your career. Many people know that you used to be a journalist or you used to do this and that. So that idea, and that's to Colin, that's to Alana Pierce, all these other people that have moved on from the journalism game, but still have that moniker on them because they've been there. So when they speak and they have such followers, people listen because, hey, they know that journalism equals integrity, right? But it seems, and I'm not saying that to call any one individual out, but when these issues happen, it seems that they forget to take off the "I'm no longer a journalist" jacket, and they say things that then make people think the wrong thing. You know what I mean? Like, and there are those who do it accidentally, I guess you could say, or they do it without knowing it because they just remember how they used to be, and they used to be able to chat with their friends on Twitter or whatever when they had a couple hundred followers, and now you have a couple 100,000. But most of them know better. Most of them know better because the feelings that they have and the way they express it, there's always a counteractive. There's a counter to that feeling. But when those things happen, you were right as rain with it. Everything was great, right? So that right there, anybody who's thinking twice, anybody who's doing any kind of critical thinking will look at you and go, your bias is showing there, right? But just be honest about that. You can say, look, man, like Cog said on the show, and I feel exactly the same way. I don't hear all these little this guy, that guy. I listen to Biggie and Tupac. I'm from that era. So anything new, I'm like, get out of here with all of that. That is fine. There is nothing wrong with that. But make that clear. Make that upfront, And then at that point, your opinion is like everyone else's opinion. And I'll leave the PG-13 version because, I could go further than that. Everybody's got an opinion. And yours is just as valid as anybody else's, right? But
some opinions stink.
Well,
I'm just going with your analogy that you didn't want to say.
I love it. That's great.
Some opinions stink more than others.
Sometimes they just need to take the L. So,
but you know what it is. It's like, and that's where, even if you're not trying to be console warrior, this and that, that's where the unfortunate narrative builds, because it's like, it's very hard to stay centered in this environment because, PlayStation does a lot of aggressive things. They've always done a lot of aggressive things.
Yep.
And you have to do aggressive things when you are not the biggest wallet in the market, right? You have to make shrewd moves just to survive. And in addition to doing aggressive things, they have a product that is second to none in many respects, right?
Correct.
So in order for them to survive, they got to keep moving and shaking as they do, right? It's business. Some people like it, some people don't. I kind of don't like some of the narratives that they perpetuate and things like that. But hey, it is business, right? Then there are others who can't afford to do that. If Xbox or Microsoft acted like PlayStation, they would be like tarred and feathered in the streets. They can't afford to do that, right? I was saying the analogy: if my PlayStation is the lion in the jungle, then Microsoft is the jungle. The actual jungle. You know what I'm saying? Like by percentage size, right? But that does not mean that when one says one thing, it's justified. And when another one says the same exact thing happens, then all of a sudden it's got to be the worst thing in the world. Now, there are some folks who have taken a very genuine, like you can tell, a genuine position of worry,
Yeah.
And I can understand some of that. I can, because, and I was saying this to Boom, but not many folks are really having that conversation, right?
No.
Right now, you have great leadership. You see how leadership changes the game, right?
Oh yeah.
You have great leadership. So I have no doubt in my mind that as hard as it's going to be for Activision Blizzard to change around as far as the human element and the work environment and all that, I have no doubt in my mind that the best people are working on it. With Phil at the helm, with all of his commandos, and I'm looking at you there, Sarah Bond, all the commandos ready to strike. I have no doubt that the best people with the best heart and the best ideas are working on the case
Well,
because
certainly
they've
with the best
proven
interest
themselves.
in mind.
That's
Yes.
right. They've proven themselves that way, right? Those who have a
Exactly.
problem, those who speak a little bit about consolidation and oh, it's a little bit too much consolidation. I can see a world where what if a Donnie Deutsch comes back in the picture 10, 15 years from now, and here you have all of these companies at your beck and call. Maybe he might not make such a well thought out decision that's in the best interest of the gamer, or I can hear all of that. But those are not the arguments that are getting the full-throated, conversations. They're talking about, oh, it's horrible for creativity. That is so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
Well, you know what? You know why? You know why it's ridiculous,
The salt mines are today full with the blood of vicarious visions, with Moon, High Moon, with Raven, my
today.
Today,
if I could jump in for a second,
Please.
Miles Dompierre on Gaz's show, him and Ace's show, Game On Daily, said that exact point. Vicarious Visions knocked out the Crash reboot and the Tony Hawk 1 and 2.
And what was their reward? Salt mines.
Yes, salt mines. They were shackled to Call of Duty.
The Tony Hawk reboot was amazing.
They got rid of some people. And then made them, hey, you're going to be the Call of Duty machine along with the 18 other studios here.
About getting rid of people, they fire them and then wait until they need them and then rehire them. And then after they're done, they fire them again. This is the world these people live in right now.
Yes.
So how can you, a person who follows the industry, a person who gets a lot of followers because what you say, has garnered you the responsibility of having so many followers. How can you see all that and go, this purchase will be bad for creativity? Quick example before I pass the mic.
I was going to say, just to jump in very quickly there. The issue I've got with the gaming community on certain sections, specifically the over-worrying right now, is the complete disregard for the human factor in this.
Thank you very much, Dutch.
If they're truly concerned about the IPs, the games, and everything that comes along with it,
speak to the
human
people that work
factor
there?
comes in first. If the human factor, if Microsoft hadn't stepped in and took this ginormous deal on, you've got to think it's 10,000 staff that they're taking on here. That's not and no mean feat. That's already double the size of what they've already got on board. With Microsoft, with Xbox Game Studios. The human factor is very much the core to this.
It's the crux of the whole conversation.
Exactly.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying. Like, I feel like when Phil put out that statement saying they'll be answering to me, that was like
very telling.
A beacon.
That was a thrown down the gauntlet moment.
Look at it, Raven.
For the watch.
Raven is no longer striking.
Exactly.
Right? Because they said they're optimistic about their future.
That's right. They have a wait and see approach.
Well, and that's go. Sorry.
Let me pass the mic. But before I do, I want a quick example. Right now, do you see Everborn Saga on Twitter? He has a good amount of followers. Do you see him on Twitter, like bemoaning and crying and screaming? Even though literally the money that was paid for this could have bought a fat Sega 13 times.
Yes.
Well, I did cry about that a little bit. So
you did cry
a little.
You didn't cry about it in a let's pick up our pitchforks.
No, I mean, like I literally cried myself to sleep. Like now,
he had nothing left when he woke up the next day.
But you know what I'm saying, right?
Soaked in his own tears.
You can give your opinion on matters, and say, man, I wish they bought Embracer Group. If you see all those numbers, right? I think Embracer has a lot of potential. But that's just me. Clearly, what they did was a better move than what I wish had happened. So we shall see what happens there. There's a lot of excitement in potentially what could happen. Unleashing the studios, as I've seen the folks in the chat say, unleash creativity. I'm excited for the things that have yet to be announced, things that have yet to come, the freedom that these studios will now be able to get, all the intermingling of studios and IPs, and all of that is not. It's not like, oh, well, those who are speaking ill of it, who are industry bigwigs or folks who have a high follower count. This is not rocket science, people. right?
Yeah.
This is not something that you need to really dig in to see. It is easily seen. How many like horrible headlines have we heard about this, right? They will throw Kotick off the bridge, give him his $230 million golden parachute, and he will land happily in oblivion somewhere. And these people will be able to get back to work and possibly breathe a sigh of relief, right? It is
Hopefully
a lot of money,
taken out by
but
a
at the end of the
Minotaur in
day,
oblivion.
it'll be worth getting rid of that guy, right?
Yes. Oh,
So people talking about, oh, this is horrible for. Let's talk about that in 20 years, because that's
Best
when it
thing
really
that could
might
possibly
matter.
have happened to Activision without this Activision. If people truly want to look at it in very black and white terms, without this deal happening, Activision Blizzard will have completely capitulated within the next 7 years.
correct.
It would have been literally
Absolutely.
nothingness.
There will come a time
Tencent would have flooded them up, and you'll
there will
never
come a
see
time
them
when their
again.
version of COD will no longer be
but
good enough.
Dutch,
It was already
but-
coming to fruition.
But
Yes, it's
Dutch,
starting to happen. Yep.
but Dutch, if that happened, at least Sony wouldn't have been threatened from losing first place. So
Oh, I mean,
That's-
Yeah,
that's-
that is literally all that people care about.
You know, that's the problem. You know, you probably hit it, Everborn. This goes back to what I was saying about the sport thing, and that's why nobody can be honest about it. Because if you're honest about it, it's just like,
yeah.
I've always known Sony to be the leader or the hold the mantle of responsibility for the gaming industry, and I just don't feel good without them having that. And
PlayStation is the name of gaming. And
that's
God
honestly
forbid
what
they
it
do
is.
something wrong. Yeah.
Because if you were trying to be like really like if I really wanted to be honest about this, you could find real things to be concerned about. Like you could say, hey, Microsoft, since Nadell has taken over, they've had a lot of success in terms of acquisitions and making those things work out. However, their philosophy every single time was to let that culture be what it was and just support it and just build upon what they already were good at. And this is going to be the first time they've ever taken on, I think, something of substantial size that really needs to be changed to the core. So if I was going to like you're saying. So like if I really wanted to start creating, concern or talking about that, or talk about, the fact that, maybe you just last generation was your favorite generation of all time. And, and if you're on the PS4, you're concerned that Sony's not going to continue to make the same games because they're going to go having to chase other things. Like that's
Which is ridiculous.
But that would be a legitimate, at least concern, right? Like at least somebody is coming from a place of like, this could happen because of that, like whatever. But, you know
what it is? The problem with that is that it's a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, it is.
Just,
it is a lot.
To simply suggest that because of one purchase, an entire company's culture and infrastructure on how they got where they were was going to be changed in a snap. That is reckless. That's a reckless opinion.
I'm reaching, Boom. I'm trying to find a way to make this work.
Let's be a little real here. I mean, when it comes to Activision Blizzard, they need a culture change. That's why this is necessary.
Listen, again, first of all, we had almost 500 people here, and we're still at over 450. I want to thank a lot. I normally I get to say hello to everyone individually. This has been a show that's kind of been a little off the rails, and I'm trying to make sure that this is supposed to be a 2-topic show. It was originally pitched as, hey, these studios going to make incredible first-party games, to we just went crazy. But Mag, I want to get your opinion on this, because you've also been very loud on social media regarding this, and you've seen. And again, this isn't just one person saying this. This is a lot of high-profile individuals with high sub counts and high follower counts that are saying. I think they're being extremely reckless behavior when it comes to potentially selling their opinion as hashtag fact, and making Microsoft into the bad guy. Because they bought this studio that was literally a ship sinking, right? There's no guarantees to success. I do want to just reiterate something that Jeff Grubb said that was very, very interesting. He says what he never liked about Sony is that they just jumped in, spent a bunch of money to lock a game off of another platform without taking any of the risk. Microsoft is here taking the risk. A $70 billion risk on potentially a failing company because of leadership, they now have to go in there. And again, like the Xbox brand itself, this is going to take years to turn this ship. Phil and team, which of course includes the Booty, obviously Aaron Greenberg and Sarah Bond.
Respect the Booty. I'm sorry.
Respect
I was
the
waiting
Booty.
for it.
Absolutely. Pause. Respect the Booty. But these every one of these leaders have proven themselves to be for the people that work for them, right? Again, that's one of the things I truly appreciate about Microsoft is their culture, where everyone there matters. It's not an exclusive club, it's an inclusive club. Everyone is welcome. And I think that kind of culture that has seen great success, and if we don't know, Microsoft is one of the number one rated places to work in the entire world, folks. And there's only one world. If they could bring that kind of culture to the 10,000 plus people that have been suffering under the devil for what seems like years, and they have that's stifling creativity when you have 13 different studios working on freaking Call of Duty just so you can please your shareholders. If that doesn't scream there's a problem, and the fact that Microsoft is taking a $70 billion investment chance on fixing that, I don't even know what to say. But what are your thoughts on what some of the people of the industry are saying regarding this? And again, simply, dumbing it down to Xbox bad, PlayStation good.
Well, first of all, Asante was making a lot of sense there earlier when you're talking about when you have a lot of followers, you do get you have a lot of responsibility, and you have a lot of responsibility of what you say, because a lot of times you got we all understand that people can take things, no pun intended, out of context. Okay, how many times have you gotten a text message and you read it wrong?
Oh my God, a boatload of times.
In respect to the emotion or how they said it or the way they said it or whatever, right? And you're like, why is this guy pissed off at me? and then what they're like, what are you talking about? I sent you it was a joke or whatever else, right? Because you misread it, right? Or for example, something else. Like I'll give you another example. When I make my videos.
Oh, okay, and you piss off a lot of people. P.S. By the way,
I do. I piss off a lot of people, right? And so the last one. And this is not a horn tutor, okay? I ended up with about 100. I ended up getting about 122,000 views on it. Wow. You know how many people didn't get it? Didn't get the point? They didn't understand what I was doing. I won't even repeat what they were saying to me. And I'm like, a lot of times I didn't engage. And I'm just like, you know what? Obviously they don't get it, whatever. But other people did, and they're like, dude, you're not getting it. You're not getting what he was trying to do here and this and that. I am not an anti this guy and anti that guy, whatever, with these consoles and this and that. I have them all, so, and I love them all. But, the thing is that people don't understand exactly what you mean. Sometimes they take things too literally, and when you say something inflammatory, like some of these other guys have said over the last week, and then, of course, what the thing is, and then all of a sudden they get a chance to explain themselves a little better. You kind of pump the brakes and go, all right, I kind of get what they're trying to say here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't attack anybody for their opinion anyway, so right. I could honestly care less. But I thought it was was a real hot topic and we loved covering those kind of hot topics with sensible conversation.
Yes. Well, people allow their emotions to get in the way. And let's face it, I don't care how big you are, whether you have 2 subscribers, 10,000, or you have 5 million subscribers, everybody has a preference at the end of the day. Everybody has a favorite team, just like OPM said, right? It's basically that idea. So the thing is, you're always going to have a bias one way or another. Movie critics, don't listen to any of their crap saying like, oh, I'm just there to watch the movie. No, you have specific preferences.
Well, but you know what? To be fair, though, even though you like your favorite team, you don't hear the people that are announcing going, oh, and those A1,
Oh, absolutely.
You can have your favorite team, but you leave it at the door and you give the people the righteous information.
Exactly. So, you keep it in check. Exactly what Asante just said. You keep it in check when you're talking to the public, especially when you have the power to sway, and you just want the right information out there. Now, let me get into this. okay, this whole situation with the actual Sony, PlayStation versus Xbox kind of thing, with this whole deal or whatever. And this is where I have a problem. I hearken back to the one headline that I think I'm going to actually get framed on my wall one day, okay? Because it was the most ridiculous pile of crap I've ever seen in my entire life. PlayStation has no exclusives, and this is why it's genius.
Unbelievable.
You remember that?
Yes.
It was all over the place. IGN, GameSpot, whatever, all these other people. And they would do something like that. But then you turn around, and for 7 years, almost 8 years, Xbox has no games. Xbox has no games.
Yeah.
Xbox has no games. And it was a bad thing. But Sony doesn't release anything, and it's genius. So it starts there. Boom, you talked about it at the very beginning of the show. Sony locks away. They purchase Insomniac. What do? They lock away Spider-Man. They lock away Wolverine. They lock away Street Fighter V. They lock away Final Fantasy 16. They lock away Final Fantasy
in general, dude.
Basically in general. That's right. Right? Forspoken. It's a timed exclusive from it'll be out in 2035. Whatever, right? Like for whoever else wants it. And Knights of the Old Republic. On and on. I can go on forever. Okay. I'm not going to be here forever to do that. But, and what are always the taglines? Only available on the PlayStation. Yes. Only available on the PS5 or the PS4 or whatever, right? No problem. Soon as someone else locks it away, my God, it's a big problem. People say, oh, well, it's so much bigger than just this. No, it's not. Spider-Man is the biggest superhero IP on the planet.
Yes, sir.
Above my beloved Batman. I'm sorry. It's just the facts, right? They locked it away. No problem. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know. Trust me, I'm a Batman guy. But anyway, the thing is, you look at that. Now look at like a game like Call of Duty. Call of Duty is basically the shooter version of Spider-Man. It's the biggest shooter on the planet. So what's the problem? It's the same thing.
Yes.
Right? And the thing is, and everybody's focusing on Call of Duty. They're not looking at all the other IP that they got out there and the potential, which I'm excited for, the potential of those other IPs that are coming down the line. Now, I don't get it. Like, for example, if you think about this, if someone slaps you in the face for 7 straight years, don't get pissed off if the guy slaps you back.
Yes.
That's the way I see it. You know what I mean? And just grow up, shut up, be a gamer, be a media, be a writer, do whatever the hell you're going to do. Okay. But, the other thing that I really dislike is that they make it sound like, Boom, you said it. Everybody else said it. We've been saying it for like a year and a half, whatever. They make it sound like you're going to get cooties if you go into the Xbox ecosystem. You know what I mean? It's like, well, they only have a PS4. And I'm like, do you have a phone? Do you have a tablet? Bet you do.
Do you have a web browser?
Laptop?
Yeah. Do you have a web browser? I love it.
Yeah,
That's great.
Do you have a web browser? I'm pretty sure
you know on the internet that you came here to complain about?
Exactly. I was going to say, if I have to listen to you bitch all day on the internet, that means you have access to Game Pass. Grow up. Shut up.
Yeah.
And that's the way I look at it. I'm sorry.
We're like Blizzard on stage. You got a phone?
Yeah. Exactly, right?
I need a shirt that says "Grow up, shut up," and it says the mag on the back. I would buy that today.
By the way, Joshua, I'm changing your name to J. Jonah Jameson. I saw the J. I love it. I saw the Joshua James. It sounds good. Actually, it sounds like a cowboy name. It's like a Yellowstone name. Joshua James is coming. But anyways, here we go. Now, the other thing is, I want to talk about briefly, very quickly here about some of this other stuff here. Like, look at the situation with Days Gone. They're talking about, Activision. Oh, what are they going to do? The culture around this and that. The lack of creativity, which you just said about 5 minutes ago there, Boom. You look at a situation like that. You want to talk about stifling creativity? Never mind Activision. How has every single Sony game looked from 2013 and on?
They literally are the same.
They're the
I
same
love them all. I love them all, but they are literally
too,
the same.
You know what? I love them too. In 2 days, I think 2 days, 3 days from now,
you got the Uncharted.
I'm playing You're damn right I'm playing Uncharted on my PS5, and I'm going to platinum both of them, okay? I'm not going to stop until I do it, because I have to get all 5 platinums. I already got 3. I need those last 2. But anyways, the point is, you want to talk about stifling creativity, that's exactly it right there. What have they done? They have basically boxed every single one of their development teams into the same corner, okay? And what are they doing? Well, it worked once, made hundreds of millions. You're all doing it. and prove me wrong when I say that you're all doing it, because they are all doing it. Sure, the stories might be different. Sure, the characters might be different. The situations might be different. But my God, the blueprint is identical.
It's funny you say that, because I've seen many memes. I've seen many, pictures taken 7 of their top 7 games, and they all look the same.
Sad dad simulators.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I have a PlayStation 5 for those games because, like Mag, I love these over-the-shoulder, story-driven, single-player experiences, which is why I have a PlayStation 5 and will continue to have a. Well, I don't know. According to King David, we're not getting a PlayStation 6, but we'll see. He is Nostradamus, but continue your point, Mag.
Well, here's the thing. So you look at the situation, right? Now you think about how the culture of the Xbox game, it's amazing, by the way, how everybody seems to have amnesia like 3 days after something happens. They're like, oh, they don't do that, or they don't talk about this. The fact that they've been talking about it since Xbox Game Studios came into fruition a few years ago, that was about a few years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing is that they talked about growing the studios, once they have them, growing them organically, allowing for creative freedom, okay?
Yes.
To let their artistry grow and flourish and bloom into whatever they desire, with all the money behind and all the R&D and tech at their fingertips. This is a recipe for greatness, because when you have great, fresh minds.
Wait, did you use that greatness on purpose? Was that?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I did. But you know what I mean? It's like you're like, without being shackled with the thoughts of, am I going to be able to keep the lights on tomorrow? Am I going to be able to pay the staff? Am I going to be able to do this or do that or whatever? And like all these different things. Instead of that, they're just saying, here's your palette, here's your paints.
Yeah,
go make a masterpiece.
Go
what
bananas.
the hell, right? And like, that's what I'm talking about.
To your point there as well, and it was mentioned in ILP, and obviously you'll get to that when you watch it, but it was mentioned in ILP as well by Cog and Co. in terms of how the studios feel being at Microsoft in terms of creativity. Right. They've obviously had the vast majority. They've had Ninja Theory, Obsidian, everybody on the show in terms of their developers. And they've asked them, they've flat out asked them, like, how do you honestly feel being part of Microsoft and Xbox? Mm-hmm. And they're saying it's awesome. Like, we can essentially do what we want to do. They're pretty hands off. If anything, they've made us better. No, if you're hearing that, and they're just saying, "Oh no, is that just a script you have to read?" And it is quite the opposite. That's a true feeling. Is how these studios feel working for Xbox and Microsoft.
Dutch, let me ask you a question. You do the custom controllers, the custom consoles, and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Imagine Microsoft came to you and said, "Hi, Dutch. Here's a studio. Here's a $2.9 trillion company behind you. Go nuts." What would you do? Like your creativity would go. I mean, I'm not saying it's not now. I'm just saying your creativity would just go 10,000-fold
right through the roof.
There was so much more I could do.
Can you imagine how much more you would be able to do if you were unshackled financially and creatively, to be able to just like do whatever the hell you want? Here's a studio. Go make all the controllers and custom consoles and this and that.
He could finally make that Sonic Series S that I want.
You'd be cranking them out like Santa's elves in December. You know what
and
I mean?
Matt, to your point, I think that's the context that's a little bit lost on. Again, going back to Schreier's comments, so I'm going to use you to continue to smack him. But anyways, when you go back to like remember the end of the original Xbox, the PlayStation 2, GameCube generation. When you ended that generation, you had a really nice balance of AAA, AA, single player, multiplayer. New IPs were coming out all the time. Remember the next generation, there was all these new IPs coming out in the first couple of years. And then what you ended up seeing over time as gaming got more and more expensive, and like the model. Which has been for a while. They've been saying this isn't sustainable, and my cat hearing me speak. God, he's such an asshole. Like the model has become less and less sustainable, and and this is the biggest problem I have with that argument, the creativity argument, is that you're not even addressing like where we've been. If you look back to like the last 5 years, you look at Activision, you look at EA, like you're talking about Sony, but I take it a step further. I mean, you can go to Microsoft before they got into the Game Pass thing with the Halo, Gears, and Forza. You look at Ubisoft, where they're going. You look at Square, like how their Western studios weren't making enough money, so now they're just going to go Final Fantasy. Like, and WB said, hey, we're looking for gas games. You saw what happened with Bethesda before this whole thing, where they were looking for, hey, we just need to, like, taking these risks with Arcane and Tango. And Grubb said that those studios were on the verge of, extinction, right? And we saw EA get rid of some of those studios in the process, and that's where the industry was going, because this model kind of reached its, like, that those demands. It's like every time you put out a AAA game, if you're not wowing us again and again and again, you're not hitting those numbers to kind of justify that, right? And so what's going on right now is what Microsoft's doing right now is they're disrupting the market. And this Activision purchase, the Game Pass thing, it is like I said in my article, it's like an asteroid. This isn't just like a bomb going off. This is like an asteroid hitting the Earth in terms of the gaming industry, and it's going to shake things up. Now, that doesn't mean the things that worked before are not going to work before, but what it's doing is it's creating new opportunities. Like if you look at what Netflix, like when they came in 2007, or not, it wasn't 2007 they came in, but you think back to like 2007, back when we were playing Halo 3, Mass Effect and all that stuff, and you think about what Netflix was back then, it was like a shell of what it is today, right? Like, and if you would have gone and told people 10 years from now, you're going to be streaming all this content, you're going to have like they're going to be spending $20 billion a year and all these shows that are going to be like 10 hours long, or every year of high production cost, you would have never like been able to really imagine that, right?
No.
In the process, I mean, you can still go buy a Blu-ray if you want. You can still go to the movie.
I couldn't even imagine Game Pass like as a kid, let alone.
No. Right.
No.
Sega gave you the template.
So yeah, I guess. So the point is like it's like you can take these little pieces and try to draw these like really like this is consolidation. Usually what happens with consolidation is less competition. It's bad for creativity. That's like you're taking some high level talking point and you're not really looking at the context of the situation, not understanding that in capitalism, acquisitions happen all the damn time, and a lot of times it actually increases competition. It can lead to innovation. Not always that you're buying.
People forget that it injects money into the echo space.
Yeah, yes. You know what, Boom? Can I jump on that quick?
Yes,
that was
please.
I was going to say. It'd be
Absolutely.
like the last thing I was going to say on this whole little rant that was going on. But here's the thing that's very interesting, and a lot of people are ignoring it, especially people that don't pay attention to how to play chess. Okay, it's always about 3 moves ahead, 4 moves ahead. You're always thinking ahead, right? Think about this. You've got your Activision now. Okay, your Activision, well, not now, but you know what I mean. Activision and Blizzard, you've got the Bethesda, you've got the Xbox Game Studios in there. Okay, they start doing what they're doing. They start bringing out these AAA games. They start bolstering Game Pass, bringing more people in. What does that do? What that does is that it fuels the independent developer scene, because then what happens is that now when you start hitting 40, 50, 60 million people in Game Pass, that studio of, let's say, 2 or 3 people working in their basement, okay, their game is now in front of 120. Right. And now they're in front of 120 million eyeballs. Okay, 60 million pairs of eyeballs are now staring at your game. And what does that do?
But next to Call of Duty.
Right. Yes, next to Call of Duty.
And what does that
with
do?
Zero cost of entry, because you already paid for your subscription because of Call of Duty and Halo and those things.
Exactly. So basically, it's funding all these other, these other games, these independent games. And what could those independent studios become? They could become Naughty Dog one day. They could
be the next
become
AAA
343.
bombs. Yeah.
They could be Insomniac one day. It starts in a basement. Microsoft started in a garage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
in
this
Bill
podcast.
Gates' parents' garage. Yeah. Right. And then look at Ninja Theory. Every time I see that last trailer that they released, think about how sad it is that if Microsoft didn't get them,
they would have run out of business.
Trailer.
They would have
never would have
Chapter
seen
11.
that trailer. We never would have seen that game. right?
Yes,
They
correct.
were on the ropes. They
Yep.
pulled them out of there, and what are we getting now? You are getting quadruple A, quality stuff coming out of these guys.
From a
And
small
I'm sure
team
the
of
game's gonna be-
41 developers making that game OPS, by the way.
Right, exactly, right?
And Mag, like how many of these studios in Activision before they got, as we were saying, put into the salt mines, like how many concepts do they have like just sitting in a drawer?
Supposedly they
come
have
out,
they've shown that they have quite a few stuff that were put on the back burners that Microsoft may bring into fruition. So it's a lot of these smaller teams like the Vicarious Visions and the Sledgehammer Games and High Moon Studios, and the list goes on and on of what they could bring. Like I said, let me bring Everborn Saga, but Everborn, before we get to your brother, Dan the Man Cunningham drops a $5 super chat, says, congrats on 10K, Boom. Thank you. He says, the only real question now is where are the shirts and swags? Listen, folks, I can't announce anything right now. Mrs. Boom and I are working on that. We wanted to get to 10K. We want to LLC the channel. There's a couple of things that we're looking to do past the 10K. We hit the 10K. That was the goal. And now we got some other big plans. Swag and merch is the next big one. And when that's going to happen, all of the designs are going to they're all going to be new designs, new show designs for every one of the programs. Whatever merch we have, we're going to have all brand new designs, and nice. I'm working on that behind the scenes right now. Again, I don't want to just throw it together to throw it out there, because it's meaningless. It's got to have some real heart and thought behind it, but it is indeed coming. We also have Tay Talks. Hey Tay, what's going on, brother? He says this after dropping a £5 super chat. Congrats on 10K, Boom. This will be a great listen tomorrow during work, but off to bed here in Ireland. I'll let Dutch represent the European side. Thank you for that. And my good brother, our good brother, BitCloud Gaming, who's been a channel member for 8 months, says, my brother, congrats on the 10K. Thank you so much for that. Yes, I have joined the 10K club. And our good friend from the Basement Radio Arcade podcast, known as Enrique, drops a $5 super chat. And he says, in terms of scale, acquiring billion-dollar publishers isn't exactly on apples to apples as just having exclusives, more layers to this. No, indeed there is, but I mean, we can't just say that Sony is just it's just Knights of the Old Republic. This is something that has extended 8-9 years with Sony. Money hatting every year. It's 4 to 8 titles. If you go back all the way to 2013, when they didn't have their first party bangers that we all know and love, right? They were locking indies upon indies, and then eventually indies didn't matter to Sony anymore, but they went out of their way to lock down titles. So if you want to say it's not apples to apples, I absolutely agree with you there. But we also have to say that Sony has been some devious MFs for sure, and they have gone out of their way to make you, here's the difference, have to buy a PlayStation to play on that one box. See the difference here. And I don't know if anyone's going to agree with me. Microsoft gives you so many ways to play these games through cloud and Game Pass that there really isn't a comparison. You can play on your computer. You can play on your TV later this year through an app. You can play on your Xbox. You can play on your One, your Xbox Series, or you can play on your tablet or your phone. So you're going to
be able to play on your PlayStation soon enough.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. I would argue about that. But just to kind of build on the point, I think, a lot of people this goes back to what we were saying at the very beginning, like about the sport thing, this Xbox versus PlayStation. This is not this $69 billion purchase was not made to win this console. This isn't about this console generation.
Yeah, it's not about consoles in general.
It's about mobile PC. It's about Game Pass.
Everything, the wider gaming space.
And I would even argue, and this is a separate topic, but I would even argue that I would bet you Microsoft does not want to kill Sony. They do not want,
No,
and the
no,
reason
no,
is
no.
the reason is
No.
not because they're the good guys. It's business purposes. They do not want to allow. They don't want to create a vacuum where an Amazon or an Apple is going to come in and buy up Sony, and now they're competing against them. So that's a whole different thing. I don't think that's what the intention of this is. This is right now positioning themselves against all these other tech companies and really just trying to drive this completely separate paradigm from this console thing. And it's like the old model doesn't really even, like, content's always going to be king. That's the one, I think that's the one similarity, right? Like that will be the king, but that king, that platform is going to be more available, and they're not trying to alienate PlayStation gamers either. It's like, bring your DualSense controller over to your TV and come log in.
You know what
right?
PlayStation needs to. This is the one thing I want to say on what Sony needs to do going forward. They need to put far less of a reliance or a should we say a perspective and a worry on critical acclaim. That in itself is stifling the creativity of their studios. We've seen this from Days Gone specifically, because that didn't perform critically. It didn't get the go-ahead for a next title.
Yeah.
However, that title ended up selling so far, still sold better than Ghost of Tsushima.
That's correct.
Because Ghost of Tsushima had higher critical acclaim as opposed to just user acclaim, that got the praise, that got the love, and Days Gone was canned. And again, we've heard the developers themselves talk about this. They need to put far less of a reliance on critical acclaim and more on just allowing the creativity of these studios to go forward. Now, we've seen that from Microsoft, and Game Pass is the perfect thing for it. I hate people that just have this heavy reliance on what Metacritic score a game is, because that matters not. Like, Metacritic is just a critic's view. The user score really is the defining factor, and even then, I wouldn't take into account Metacritic's user score. I would look at more the Steam model, where people have got actual play hours in there that you can see. That is really that's the feedback you need. How are the users receiving the game? Ignore the critics. The critics matter not. You can put it out with 40 critics, they can hate it, but it can go to the consumer and they absolutely adore it. That is your main concern. The consumer at the end of the day is the person purchasing your game. If the consumer loves it, you continue to make that content, regardless of whether or not that's a 70 Metacritic game or a 95 Metacritic game. It doesn't matter. The consumer is the king. Consumer is king. And if you look after the consumer will overall look after your wallet. That's really what Sony need to focus on going forwards.
No, those are great points, Dutch. Everborn Saga, you've been sitting here, you've been stewing in it. I know you can't wait to drop your bars, as Cognito would say.
We got to get Mag out of here, right?
Yes.
It's right.
I want to hear what you got to say. I got a couple minutes.
Okay. All right. Go. Boom. Set me up.
Well, look, the bottom line,
I'm ready to jump into double dutch.
Well, we've been talking about this privately. We both feel almost identical. Again, not in an echo chamber by any stretch of the truth. He has his opinion, I have mine. But you have seen the rigmarole, if you will, on the socials. Thankfully, you've stayed out of the spaces, which have just been ridiculous. Where do you fall in and again, I'm just dumbing it down to a simple, there's a lot of complexity here to this conversation, but for argument purposes and time purposes, the dumb it down is when Microsoft seems to do something big, it's deemed by many people in this industry as wrongdoing. When Sony goes out of their way and they buy 5 studios, even though they've worked with them in the past, well, that's great for Sony. They're organically growing, right? When Sony locks a said game and forces that developer, when asked, hey, when is that coming to Xbox? Well, we right now because Sony was, and maybe they still are, they're the dominant platform right now, but not for much longer. And I think that scared the industry that was afraid of Sony. I think they're going to start to see that working with Microsoft is the better bet, and maybe Sony becomes number 3. because I think that's eventually what's going to happen. But where is your take? And again, for simplistic, purposes, Microsoft doing it bad, Sony doing it good.
So I think a lot of what you are seeing is people are sort of picking a side first and then deciding what is morally good and just and right? So when you have decided that, hey, I'm in the tank for this team, so the way they do things is the way you should do it, right? So you've effectively defined exactly the way that your favorite plastic box maker does things and says that is the way the industry works because you want more of the status quo, right? And I find it funny that for a lot of us who we say we want new things, we say we want disruption, but we don't like change. And the way we understand the world is that Sony's on top. And the way they do things is the right way because I like Sony and I like the games that they do. But the fact is, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And people will say it's not the same thing of paying for timed exclusivity versus taking a whole publisher off the board. No, it's not, because one person can afford to do it and the other one can't. But guess what? The person who couldn't afford to do it used what they had in an unfair way, right? This is not fair, right? It's not fair that, other platform holders can't make the move that just got made. But it's also not fair, and it's not good for competition when one company is using their presence in the market to bully around the competition, right? And tell me how it was a benefit to any consumers for Final Fantasy to be an exclusive until God knows when. How did that help creativity? I want somebody to explain that to me. And what is the difference between an Xbox user being locked out of Persona or any other paid exclusive? How does that help creativity, and what does it mean for an Xbox gamer to be locked out of those things, unless we're saying
I could tell
matter.
you what the running theme has been? Buy a PlayStation. You want Spider-Man?
But
buy
God
a PlayStation.
God forbid you have to sully your good name by going over to Team Green for the low price of $279, or for the low price of $1 and a web browser, right? So that's that side of it. So I don't listen to a lot of that, right? Because we know where it's coming from. We know the sides were decided in the beginning, and then they make the rules up afterwards to suit the argument, right? We believed in generations until we didn't, right? we all of these things, and now we may or may not be making more PS4s when we believed in generations, right? We believed in organic growth, right? Until we bought
5 studios.
five studios in 1 year.
Yeah,
so at the end of the day, Microsoft bought Bethesda and picked up 7 studios, and Sony bought 5 studios individually and picked up 5 studios, but Sony already had 15 studios. So we were at 23 to 20 studios. But somehow one side of it is looked at as unfair, and this is the wrong way, and it's untoward. I don't respect that. That stifles creativity. Let me ask you a question, right? How many projects can get greenlit and get eyeballs on them because of Game Pass? Has again, and I will keep saying this, we call it the Netflix of gaming for a reason. Has Netflix stifled creativity?
Nope.
Right? So let's let's put that idea to bed and let's stop pretending you care about creativity when you keep buying the same game over and over. Right? So that's not what you care about, bangers. Right? So let's throw that out. So now that we've got all the nonsense out of this discussion, let's have a real discussion. Let's talk about what potential concerns there could be. I tweeted about this earlier. My concern in all this, and I hope that it is unwarranted, is that in this new world, because we live in a simulation at this point, 68.7 billion, we're in the matrix, right? But a concern of mine now is with Microsoft now seemingly focusing on these big mega publishers, right? I do not want Xbox to lose its identity. I do not want all the studios that they bought and put the hard work into. I don't want Obsidian and Double Fine,
Compulsion.
In Exile, Compulsion. I don't want them to be forgot about because now, you know, we have Starfield and Elder Scrolls and Call of Duty and all those things, because those are the hotshot studios that are going to bring in all the money. But let's not forget how we got here. And I just hope that doesn't get lost in the shuffle. And another thing is, this deal is a risk. And they bet the company on this, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And the thing about that is the importance of that. One, it is a good thing to see that the gaming industry is so healthy that this kind of money is being invested into it, right? It is a good thing to see, because remember, we got Spider-Man, God of War, Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Days Gone, all those things when Sony had no competition. What are we going to get from Sony now that there's close to a foot on their neck, right? This is only good. Put the pressure on them. When they got put pressure on them in the PS3, you got the PS4 generation. So it's fine. Let Sony get punched in the nose. That's okay. That's good for you. Because now they wanted to put out Spartacus. Let's see if Spartacus comes without day and date now. Right? So you can't say, oh, well, the games and the quality that we offer doesn't allow us to do day and date. Call of Duty is going to be a day and date game in Game Pass. Starfield, day and date in Game Pass. Elder Scrolls 6, day and date in Game Pass. Try Spartacus now, right? And try to convince your consumers that this service, which is probably going to be the same price, if not more expensive, does not warrant your money to go day and date, right? Good luck. So this is that is good for you, right? People playing that missed out on Death's Door right now because it's in Game Pass. That's good for you. That's good for the consumer. You have access. They have removed barriers of entry. That is good. That is good for creativity, and competition is good for creativity, and this spurs competitions. Now, another concern here is that this, like I said, it was a bet. This is not guaranteed a slam dunk, because guess what? Unlike Bethesda, you have to go in there with a scalpel, right? And change things around. This is not going to be a blunt instrument, right? So now there's a chance that it may not work, right? So if they do turn around Activision, Blizzard, King, they should be commended. And let's not just say they threw their money around. They did, but this takes work. This is not I buy it and I leave it alone. Right. So that is in and of itself a risk. The money is a risk. Yeah. Right. So let's understand that. Let's see if the deal goes through. Let's keep them honest, because there are people's livelihoods and in some cases lives at stake here.
Indeed.
So let's keep them honest, and let's make sure they don't forget about what Xbox is and the mission. And there's another concern. We knew that it was acquisition season, but Microsoft was not planning to spend $70 billion on Activision more than 4 months ago. This is something that landed on their laps.
Well, they came to them. Please elaborate on that. That's a lot of people think that Microsoft went to them. That's not, in fact, how it went down.
And that's another thing for these monopoly arguments, right? They came to Microsoft.
Indeed,
and
they
now
did.
Microsoft shifted a bunch of things around because they had another plan. The plan wasn't this, but now it is the plan, and now they have to change trajectories. And I just don't like this deal because it took Sega away from me. But we're not here to talk about Sega tonight. The point is, right? We have something that is lowering the barrier of access and entry to games. We have a service model that allows for this is another I don't want to curse, BS argument that I hear that, because of Game Pass, everything has to be a service. No, fool. Because of Game Pass, you don't have to be a service, because Game Pass is the service, so you can be a single player game like Starfield.
Yes.
And like the other single player games that will go in there. So this is a thing that is stopping people from having to force everything to go in a service, right? So again, another plus. So now we are fostering competition. Now we are fostering creativity. And now we are giving people eyeballs for smaller developers, and now revenue streams for big publishers who couldn't find their way in this new big money world. And I'm almost done here, so I apologize if I'm going on a rant. But
OBM, do you have to bounce, brother?
No, actually, I don't have to go pick up my daughter now, so I can stay. I'm good.
Okay,
awesome. Bag, do you got to go?
I'm actually gonna get out of here, boys. I gotta run now. So.
Mag, thank you so much for everything, brother. We'll
guys, what a great show, man! And great work with you, Joshua James, for the first time, and OBM.
Hey, just
all right,
pull out the
guys.
symbol,
Everybody, y'all know where to find me, but I'll see you next week. Everborn, continue.
Yes, sir. We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.
And we need another one of those videos. So again,
don't worry,
there we go. So again, there are concerns. This is not a press a button and they are integrated. Many things have to happen, and
this is a big shift, dude. This is listen. I'm gonna let you continue, but I want to reiterate this. Everything everyone is saying here is fact. The same way Microsoft went from 4 developers pre E3 2018 to where they are at near 40 right now. This is Phil Spencer turning a monster ship that took years
in a bathtub.
Okay,
turn the ship around in a bathtub.
They have undertaken one of the most egregious treatments of staff in the history of gaming that even outdates everything that was horrible about EA in their heyday. Okay, and they have undertaken and risked $70 billion to make it right. Now, are they doing this to make money? Well, of course they are, because they are a business, but it's still a risky business nonetheless.
You know where it is, Boom, as well, just to put it into perspective. It's still 70 billion is the largest thing that Microsoft have ever done.
In the history of the company, by the way. Yes.
So it is it is a huge risk, and it has to pay off. If you've got to think about this as well in the grand scheme of things. You don't believe that, don't disbelieve that Phil Spencer has now got an arrow pointing at his head if this doesn't pan out the way that he hopes it pans out, because he's put himself in the crossfire. He's placed this massive bet on his vision and the investment, a 90 billion investment that they've made into gaming over the last few years. That is astronomical. If this doesn't pan out the way it is, you bet that it'll be him in the crossfires, and it'll be him that takes the flak and him that goes down.
Yeah, but guess what? It'll be Satya as well.
Line.
Yes, it would be Satya as well.
greenlit this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is a huge risk, and it's one that they're taking, knowing with a lot of the research they've done. They've looked into the avenues that are exploring, what the trends are. And when you hear every time they go to every one of these shows, we're looking at the trends going forward. We're not looking at the here and now, because the here and now has happened, it's gone, it's done. Whatever happens tomorrow, that's not where we're looking. What we're looking at is years in advance.
Yes.
The purchases now aren't for the here and now. The purchases they're doing now are for a decade from now. Yes. That's when you'll see all of these things truly pan out.
Right, and that's a great point. So again, so like I said, it's not a slam dunk, and if they pull this off, it will be the heist of the century. in a good way, right? So now there are though concerns about whether the deal will actually go through. Forget about whether it actually is a monopoly. It is not. I think we have established that many times. But President Biden put out a tweet today, and he says, in too many industries, a handful of giant companies dominate the market. Rather than competing for customers, they're consuming their competitors. My executive order on competition is changing that. It included 72 actions that help lower prices and improve options for consumers. Do we think that tweet is coincidence? Or
I think it literally is just a matter of fact. I think could it potentially be Microsoft motivated? I'm gonna be honest with you, no, because again, this acquisition doesn't stifle growth within gaming. The growth in gaming in 2021, even with the pandemic, is on a record pace compared from 21 to 22, and we're only in the first month of the year. So I think that's just a
and that's why everybody's getting in, right? Like that's the thing that. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut somebody off?
No, please go ahead.
I got excited.
Please speak. Yes.
My cat wasn't bothering me. I was just going to try to get a word in while I was free. Yeah, like that's the thing with where the gaming industry is and why it's exciting and why like when we say like when an industry is growing, it fragments, and the reason is like all these companies start jumping in there. And like I did want to address one thing because I know that Colin did talk a little bit about the concern of Game Pass and do people want to buy these games and things like that. So I think like that is, I can understand the legitimate concern in a vacuum, but it is something that if you pull it back and you look at it like at a really, really high level, if you think about who's really important in the industry, it is the creatives, right? From a consumer standpoint, from a person standpoint, it's the people that are developing games, the people that work for these companies. That's who's really important, not the name on the front of the door, right? And what is happening right now, it's like, yes, through these paradigm shifts, just like the last one, like when free-to-play and gas games really took over the industry, the middle class of gaming got squeezed out. A lot of these companies went out of business, but a lot of those developers went to other companies. You may still see some of that, right? You might see that. We're seeing that at the top of the industry right now, ironically. It's the Ubisofts and the Activisions that are like, all right, where's our place now? Like these things are moving, because what's happening right now, it's an exciting thing for consumers and the developers themselves, like the individual developers. If you're somebody out here that's like, I want to go make a game, you probably have more opportunity today than you've ever had. And this democratization of gaming, what's happening is it's allowing all these developers to come into the industry, and you're seeing like I looked at the number of individual developers that made games for the original Xbox when we were, we're doing that book. And, there was like between 200 and 300 developers, maybe like 250 developers. The end of the Xbox One generation, it was over 2,000. And that number is just continuing to grow. And so like everybody's projecting all this money to come in. There's going to be more demand for content than ever. The names on the front of some of these doors, like they might get consolidated. Some of them may not make it, but those developers, especially in this environment, are going to go places. They're in demand more than any ever. And that's why I want people to focus on that instead of like, well, this company is going to go out of business, or this, this one's all right. Well, then your employees, if you don't. Like if you don't adjust, that's going to happen, and paradigm changes, things like that can happen. But the developers themselves are not going anywhere. Like companies right now are struggling to even fill get enough developers to finish some of these projects right now.
Yeah.
So just okay. I know you wanted to say something, but I did want to continue.
No, I'm good.
Well,
good.
I just wanted to add a note in there real quick to your point about what Biden said. Do you think that the $2 trillion company heard of that executive order and its in details right when you did?
Oh, listen. I'm going to quote Xbox University here and say the palms have already been greased.
Long greased.
Right?
Yes.
Talk to me about
P.S.
that
by the
Jedi
way,
contract.
thanks to Everborn. It was beknownst to the world that one of Biden's biggest supporters for his candidacy, for his presidential run, was in fact Microsoft at $17 million.
Now we're not
FYI.
suggesting anything untoward is going on.
No,
I'm just
but
saying
they wanted.
there's a high confidence level that this deal's going to go through. But
100%.
now, listen. So to that point, the thing to think about with this is the reason you see $100 billion over the course of 5 years invested. We're almost at 100. You spend that 5 on Sega and we'll get there. But we see that invested into the gaming space because there's several reasons to it, right? We heard that when Google saw Microsoft spend $7.5 billion on Bethesda, and they heard this is how much you got to spend to get in the business, they just shut the doors down, right? Of their first party efforts, right? So now anyone else that sees this and thinks they want to get into this business, hey, Facebook, you ready to spend $70 billion?
Nope.
Come talk to me, right? Apple, I know you have it, but you ain't making no purchases like this. You don't want that. You don't want that static, right? So the thing about this is, and Phil Spencer alluded to this, but they're not joking when they say the addressable market is 3 billion gamers, right? So Phil Spencer talked about when he went on CNBC, he was there. Well, he was on like the video cam because he didn't want to sit next to Bobby K. But he went on CNBC and he talked about these other big tech companies and their addressable markets, the ones they control, like Apple and their app store with like 1.5 billion people they have an addressable market to, and Google with what 2-3 billion Android phones out there. That's their market. They control that, right? And Microsoft missed out on mobile and they missed out on social, right? And so what they're doing now is they see that, hey, because there are billions of gamers around the world, we can own that the way Apple and Google own mobile and the way Facebook owns social. And they're trying to get so far out in front ahead that trying to get in there, you're going to be fighting for second place.
Yes.
Right. And that's not to Sony he's talking about. He is talking about to Apple and Amazon and Facebook. And I mean, Google's already down for the count, but we'll see. I think they're going to sell their services, which is what I think they always wanted to. That being said, he has spoken about this, and I know he's saying all the right things so he can look like the white knight that's trying to save the industry. But if he grows it in this way, that 3 billion people that look at these things, and remember, Sony has contracts with Microsoft to help out with the technology piece to address those 3 billion gamers. Remember, he's saying, I'm trying to grow the pie for everybody. Sony doesn't have to lose for them to win. Now, will they lose some money and will their position in the market be threatened? Sure, but it should be. Just like everybody should be. You're not guaranteed first place.
Right. Yeah.
Right? You lost this thing. You don't have, or you won't have COD anymore. You won't be able to lean on someone else for your multiplayer and first-person shooters. So guess what? What does Sony have right now? A bunch of studios like Firesprite coming together to try to make them their Call of Duty and Halo competitor. And that is a good thing, unless you just wanted Sony to sit back and keep making you more sad dad simulators. I'm a sad dad. I'm not hating on it. I'm just saying.
Same here, man.
Right? Let's be clear. Like Sony at the top and their strategy that everyone championed of timed exclusives. And we talked about this on Monday before the deal went down on Tuesday. What are they going to do to combat Final Fantasy, whatever, not coming to the Xbox this whole generation? Right?
Well, Everborn, like, how are they going to combat when I buy my next TV and it comes with an Xbox controller and I can play GeForce Now right on the TV?
There you go.
Like, how many people are going to be upgrading their TVs in the next 5 years? And there's going to be an app right there on there. and then I won't even need to buy a console at that point. Like,
well, yeah, again, that's where the casual market really comes into the
What-
conversation
and
because
no, go ahead, boom.
no, because 80+% of Sony's success in last generation was completely targeted and confirmed by the by the normies, by the casual market.
And how creative will Sony have to be when they can't rely on their market position to lock out third-party content?
Well, look, we can have a 19-hour podcast and get into that, but I definitely want to say that once the paradigm shift that we're seeing happens, and Sony is no longer the lead dog, they're not going to have people coming to them. They're going to those same people that came to Sony out of fear because they held on to the market so tightly are going to be going to Microsoft. Microsoft's going to say, "Hey, listen, come into the pool. It's real nice."
And Boom, I know we got to go, so I don't want anyone to answer this question. I just want to put this question into the ether for the chat, right? We know that at one point, Phil Spencer approached Sony to put Game Pass on.
And they said nay.
But today, in today's world, right, with Phil, I want that as mine, Spencer, right? I want that, I buy that. Does Phil today still want Game Pass on PlayStation? Because remember, one of the benefits of Game Pass is the downstream money. So when they're in your ecosystem, they're buying more games, they're doing more microtransaction, all those things. He approached Sony when they were fledgling and from a position of weakness, and when Sony had the top number of consoles sold. We are in a new generation. This is why this is so important. They can no longer rely on that 100 and how many million PlayStations out there. So you don't have that user base to rely on. Does Phil still want Game Pass on PlayStation? I think the answer is not as simple. I don't know if
well, you know, it's funny.
It's
funny you should ask that question, because that very question is going to be answered on tomorrow's afternoon's Xbox Factor podcast. As a matter of fact, that we're going to be diving into it, whether or not roles have been reversed. Is Sony going to want Game Pass? I don't think that they do still.
I don't.
But the truth of the matter is, if you were to ask Phil right now today, does he want Game Pass on Sony? The answer is no, because they want those gamers to be spending money on the Xbox platform. And remember, and this is something else that we're going to be talking about. If Call of Duty does wind up staying on PlayStation, does anyone realize that it's a 70-30 split? Microsoft is logistically paying Sony to put this game on their platform, and it's an IP that they own. The answer is Sony's going to get Ugats.
But listen,
the end of the story.
Even if they do, does Sony even still want the marketing rights? Because we talked about them finishing the contract, and I would argue, do they want to spend tens of millions of dollars on markeing
when you're going
just
to
for
Game Pass?
At the end of the commercial they say day one on Game Pass for free?
No.
I don't know that they do.
Again, it's going to be a very taxing question to be answered, but we're going to be up for the challenge. So if you're interested in getting that answer that Everborn, the answer to the question that Everborn just presented, tune in tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. But folks, that is going to do it for Primetime Gaming. I want to thank the over 500 people here. Real quick, Reggie Mobile 9, who's been a member for 16 months, says, great show to you, Boom and crew. 16 months in. Thank you, Reggie. Definitely appreciate that. Gamer by Choice drops a $10 super chat and says, to me, the only difference between timed exclusives and buying publishers is the money spent and the time on the exclusivity. So if you don't want publishers bought, call out timed exclusives. Great show. Reggie Mobile 9 drops a $5 super chat and says, congrats on making to 10K. Thank you, Reggie. Definitely appreciate that. Appreciate the great dialogue and contact. Continued success. Well, thank you so much, brother. And Bay Area drops a $5 super chat and says, shout out to Everborn for bringing the heat. You got me excited in a good way. Pause. Great show as always. Smash that like button. And listen, let's start with Joshua James, you are one of the voices over at Xbox North. Why don't you tell everyone where they could check out that podcast when it goes live, and where can people reach out to you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm one of actually two halves now. Our host, on again, off again host, Andrew. He is following his acting career, and he got a huge. He is producing a movie, and it got greenlit, and he's kind of down in that world. So it's just going to be me and Dan for a while. But you can find us pretty much on all major podcast services. Just look up Xbox North Podcast, Xbox North, because we're Canadian. Up in the snowy north, right? You can find us on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify. We post every single Friday. Our podcast is around an hour and a half. So if you have an hour of your time, come check us out. We are almost at 50 subscribers on YouTube. So
listen, we all start with one subscriber, brother. Get over.
Hey.
All of your information is in the show notes, brother. Please give this man a sub. Another positive Xbox group of guys to listen to, where they talk sense. They bring positivity to the conversation, and one you should definitely check out. Josh, thanks so much for being here, brother. Definitely appreciate it.
And check us out on Twitter. I'm always up for a conversation. You want to interact with us, ask questions. We would love to do that. So just look up Josh North 88. That's my Twitter, or North at North Xbox. You can find us there. So
thank you, brother. Definitely appreciate that. One Bad Mother. Let's get you on out of here, dude. Tell everyone where they can check out your works on Xbox Era, and also where can people strike up a conversation on social media.
Well, first, I want to thank you again for having me, Boom. By the way, it is Monday. I did have a pot of coffee. I want to thank everybody for dealing with me. I'm hearing myself like speaking twice as fast as usual, but it's one of those Mondays, and I came kind of revved up. But if they do want to catch me, you can find me on social media on Twitter at Mutha_1 MUTHA_ONE. I also am a senior writer over at Xbox Era. And if you haven't been to the site, go to the site.
XboxEra.com.
Yeah, XboxEra.com. We have forums. I just put up an article actually a couple days after this whole thing was announced. Basically, 3 big questions regarding Call of Duty and Activision. And so go check that out. We're going to be having some more content coming out regarding some of the topics that you'll be talking about tomorrow, Boom. So we'll be talking a little bit about that exclusivity. It's not as cut and dry, by the way, at Xbox Era. There's a little bit of a divide there. So come and hear us, fight with each other about that. But as always, it's always great to come and talk to you guys. I would do this stuff, even if it wasn't on the podcast, just kind of, bull crapping about different things. It's always fun. Was just spent a few hours with Everborn and Kay Asante, and this show, it feels like we could have gone for another 4 hours.
We could have pulled.
We got to come back for topics.
100%.
I know we just got through one barely, and I don't even know if we.
we barely talked about what I sold the show. It's okay. Listen, it was an intelligent, well spoken conversation, and I think that's what makes this show very special. That even if we do spend an hour, 2+ hours on a topic, everyone does get their point across without being rushed, and that's important to me as the host. Wandering Dutch, tell everyone about your incredible podcast that is seeing more growth now than ever, and also where can people check out the best beard in the business on social media.
Certainly, yeah. Again, massive pleasure for being in the chat with all these fine gentlemen again. Awesome to be on there with obviously Joshua James and OBM as usual, who's obviously an adopted panel member at this point now. May as well be. Yeah, I think you're PTG more than your Xbox Era these days.
We may have to acquire him. Take it.
I think so. Yes, that's right.
Desire.
What's the fee?
OBM.
Hey, wait, pause.
Pause. Indeed.
Yeah, it's been absolutely awesome yet again. Hats off again to you, Boom, for hitting that massive 10K. Obviously, onwards and upwards. It's only going up from here. In such a short period of time, of course, it's like 3 years worth of live shows, and you've already smashed it. So, hats off to you. record pace.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Wondering Dutch, on YouTube, of course, at Wondering Dutch, the home of the Midweek Mix-Up podcast. And as usual, I announce my guests for the week on this show. We've got Jez Corden this week.
Nice, dude. What a big get. That's awesome.
Good job.
So yes, that'll be fun. That will be fun.
Jez has been in the news. A lot of people attacked him for his opinion, which you should never do. He has brought a lot of really good points to his reasoning for him originally wanting Call of Duty multiplat. And definitely check out Jez, not only on Wandering Dutch Show. That's a big get. He might let the cat out the bag a little bit. We might have a duo showing up for Breakfast with Boom. As soon as I get confirmation, I will make that announcement. But Kay Asante, let's get you on out here, brother. Congratulations on incredible success for the Gaming Circle podcast. You're closing in on 1,000 views, and and just for context, folks, please get over there and sub this dude, because him and Everborn put on a great show every Saturday, and they had the most people in the chat this past weekend. And obviously there was a big event happening. Obviously the announcement of Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard. But their content is fresh, and it's new, and it's legitimate. Get over there, sub the channel, check it out on Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sell your brand, Kazante. And also, where can people reach out to you on social media?
Yeah, thank you so much, Boom. I really appreciate it. And of course, Xbox North, a new podcast that I'll be able to get
a positive one too.
I'm looking forward to checking out the stuff. I appreciate you being here. This was great. And of course, my PTG brethren, and by that I mean OBM as well, because that man knows what the fridge is these days. So yes, no, and I appreciate you, by the way, OBM, for coming through last weekend. Last Saturday we had a great conversation. We kept it lively, as we do. As Boom says, more viewers on that show than I've ever had on any other shows, which is pretty great. I'm 4 subscribers away from 400 subscribers, which is
nice.
A small victory, but hey, we're getting there. I appreciate it.
There's 256 people here. If you're not sub, get over there. Get this man over.
Put that link in the chat so the people.
Oh,
can
yes.
Take advantage of the eyeballs you got on you right now, man.
I appreciate that, good sir. I will definitely put the link in the chat. But and in the tradition of announcing the next guest, I will actually say, because I got confirmation, that the community good guy, Mr. Joanna Dark, will be joining us this weekend on the
excellent. That's a big one. That's good.
I'm excited to have him. He's always such a great guest on all the various shows that he's on, and he knows how to bring the knowledge and the information. So we're really, really glad to have him join us. But no, yes, it's the Gaming Circle podcast. You can find it on Twitter. You can find it on YouTube as well. My name is K Asante, TKO Asante on Twitter. You follow me, I will definitely follow you back. Lots of fun, lots of chats. Enjoying myself in this YouTube, Twitter Spaces thing. I was actually on the Shop podcast as well, so we had a good time there. So yeah, just hanging out, just talking games, chatting with people. You follow me, and we'll have that conversation. These days, we're talking a lot of VR. The Hitman trilogy came out, and it's VR capable on Game Pass. So people have been chatting back and forth with me about that. It's just a lot of fun. But I appreciate all the followers, all the people that watch the show. We are also now the Gaming Circle podcast on your various favorite podcasting services around the globe. So if you want to listen to it in an audio form, we have that for you as well. And yeah, you'll see us again here at PTG next week. We appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. And last but certainly not least, Everborn Saga. Please sell your brand. Tell them what you got going on with the anime, and where can people reach out to you and potentially strike up a conversation on social media.
I am Everborn Saga everywhere. You can find me in these Twitter streets, also at Everborn Saga. But if you happen to be on Facebook, I'm never there, but you can find me at Everborn Saga, also on Instagram. But more importantly, on Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, Oculus Quest 2, all those places, Everborn Saga. In the chat, I just put Everborn Saga on YouTube. But also, I want you to go to everbornsaga.com because my branding is tight. No. But I want you to go to everbornsaga.com and check out the comics we got going on there. You can see we are developing a video game. We are working on a pilot for an anime series, and we put comic books out. So we're getting ready to release the Redlands. That's the series we just had the Kickstarter for, which was funded in 24 hours. I thank you all so much for that. And we are going to try to get that delivered to everyone 1 month early. And we have a new series coming up called The Remnant that we'll get an official announcement very soon. And we are already working on Ariel's Adventure Chapter 2 and Prince of Arcadia Chapter 5. So big things are going on.
Oh, I'd love to talk comics with you, Everborn.
Yes.
I grew
Anytime,
up
sir.
in that industry. My dad used to write for Heavy Metal magazine.
Oh
and
my
kind of
God! Wow, that's
pioneered a
right
bunch of
there.
stuff.
Legendary.
Canadian
Wow.
comic
We
books and
now
stuff,
we
so.
now we definitely have to connect. And
Yeah,
guess what?
100.
You can find me at Everborn Saga.
I just subscribed, Ben.
There we go. Thank you, sir. I
That's
appreciate you. All right, I'm gonna slide in your DM soon, sir.
Oh yeah. Talk to me.
I always feel like saying pause after that slide. Never mind. Excuse me.
Oh, he can slide in my DMs anytime. Don't worry.
All right, gentlemen. Well, listen. I want to thank everybody that was here. This is what a great way to kick off the week. Almost a 2 hour and 40-minute podcast. And I want to thank the almost 250 people still here. I'm going to close out the show, folks, with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. Also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and Friends.